I collect attributes in the apocalypse. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426 Step Back. In Qin Changqing's opinion, Murin Shan was able to gain the upper hand just now because of his carelessness. Now he is not careless anymore. He wants to deal with Murin Shan with all his strength. He does not believe that Murin Shan is still his opponent. After adjusting his state, Qin Changqing stepped on the ground with his feet, and his whole body rushed towards Murin Shan again with a fierce attitude. Facing Qin Changqing's attack, Murin Shan will not be careless either, but she will not feel fear or nervous. Because she firmly believes that Qin Changqing's strength is not as good as hers. As long as she is careful, Qin Changqing will never be her opponent. Bang! Bang! The two quickly fought together and started a fierce battle. While Qin Changqing and Murin Shan were fighting in full swing, the battle between Murin Zhu and Li Zihan can be said to be quite easy and simple. After all, the people they are dealing with are only the strength of the second-level evolvers, and not all of them have reached the peak of the second-level evolvers. To deal with people of this strength, Murin Zhu and Li Zihan can only use the idiom easy to describe their feelings at this moment. Level 3 Evolver. You are also level 3 evolvers. Xiao Liu and his friends almost popped their eyes out. They never thought that Murin Zhu and Li Zihan were also level 3 evolvers. They suddenly felt like they had something to say. When they were at the waterfall before, they thought Lin Fan was easy to bully, so they wanted to beat him up to show off their power. But who knew that Lin Fan was so powerful that he beat them up like a child, leaving them no chance to fight back. Now that Murin Zhu and Li Zihan were coming to deal with them, they thought that Murin Zhu and Li Zihan were not very strong, and they were just trying to find some confidence from them. But things were beyond their expectations again. Although Murin Zhu and Li Zihan were not stronger than Lin Fan, they were not something they could deal with. In front of the level 3 evolvers displayed by Murin Zhu and Li Zihan, they also had no power to fight back, and were constantly suppressed by Murin Zhu and Li Zihan. Too amazing. I didn't expect them to be so powerful. Yeah, if anyone calls them vases again, I'll be the first to stand up and express my dissatisfaction. If people with such strength are all vases, then aren't we even worse than vases? I don't know how they improved their strength to reach the 3rd level of evolvers so quickly. When I become a 3rd level evolver, I must show off. If you have such an idea, it means you are getting further and further away from becoming a 3rd level evolver. After seeing the performance of Murin Zhu and Li Zihan, everyone started talking at once. Bang! 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 Soon, 5 dull sounds rang out in succession. As these 5 dull sounds spread, the bodies of Xiao Liu and the other 5 people that Murin Zhu and Li Zihan were dealing with flew backwards one after another. After they drew one parabola after another in the air, their bodies kept falling back to the ground, and they screamed. After Xiao Liu and the others paused, Murin Zhu and Li Zihan looked at each other and did not take any further action. Instead, they walked back to the chair and looked at Lin Fan and Murin Shan. Of course, at this time, they were more looking at Murin Shan. Because in their hearts, Lin Fan didn't need them to worry about anything. They all knew that Lin Fan didn't fight Qin Changqing quickly, but he was deliberately hiding his strength. Otherwise, once Lin Fan used his supernatural power, Qin Changqing would not be defeated. Bang! Bang! The battle between Murin Shan and Qin Changqing was still going on, and dull sounds spread one after another. What made Qin Changqing speechless was that Murin Shan's strength was far beyond his imagination. Although he tried hard to attack Murin Shan could either avoid his attack or completely resist his attack. In fact, many times, Murin Shan could counterattack him when he didn't react. The most important thing is that when he counterattacked, he was unable to resist Murin Shan's attack and would be attacked by her. Murin Shan was also a genuine 3rd level evolver. Being attacked by a 3rd level evolver with all her strength was no joke, and the pain was quite intense. Faced with this situation, Qin Changqing's face almost turned black. He was still thinking that it was because of his carelessness that he suffered a loss in the first fight. As long as he was not careless, he would definitely be able to defeat Murin Shan. However, the facts now told him that no matter whether he was careless or not, Murin Shan's strength seemed to be stronger than his. This was the fact he could not accept the most. Now that there were so many people watching here, he couldn't even defeat Murin Shan, and if he was beaten by Murin Shan, Then he really didn't know how to raise his head here in the future. After all, this was equivalent to him being beaten twice in one day. Lin Fan once, Murong Shan once, is there anything worse than this? Thinking of this, while dealing with Murong Shan, Qin Changqing couldn't help but glance at Qin Changqing from the corner of his eyes. This sight made him feel even more disappointed. Why is that kid so powerful? Qin Changqing thought secretly. In his eyes, Qin Changqing would not be defeated. With Qin Changqing, he would definitely be able to take down Lin Fan quickly, and then wait for him to beat Lin Fan up to regain his lost face. But he never thought that Qin Changqing and Lin Fan had fought for such a long time, but he didn't even have the upper hand. This was very unscientific in his opinion. Bang! When Qin Changqing was thinking about Qin Changqing and Lin Fan, his mind couldn't help but be absent-minded, and at this time, Murong Shan quickly found the opportunity, flashed her delicate body, and approached, appearing in front of Qin Changqing, waving her jade hand, and attacking Qin Changqing's chest with a powerful force. Under the attack of this force, Qin Changqing's body immediately retreated backwards, his feet stomping on the ground, but unfortunately he still couldn't stabilize his body. After retreating about 10 meters, he fell to the ground in embarrassment. During this process, Murong Shan did not relax at all. As Qin Changqing's body retreated, she also moved forward. Therefore, when Qin Changqing fell to the ground, Murong Shan had already arrived in front of Qin Changqing. Qin Changqing subconsciously wanted to turn over, but just as he raised his body, Murong Shan stepped on his chest and stepped his raised body back. Cough cough, a violent cough came out of Qin Changqing's mouth, and his face felt red. Chapter 427 Call Me Goddess. Being stepped on by Murong Shan, Qin Changqing felt very embarrassed, and the pain in his chest also made him very uncomfortable. Because the power of Murong Shan's palm and the power of this step were both quite heavy. The most important thing is that these two attacks were not biased, and they were at the same position, and there was not even a centimeter difference. Murong Shan looked down at Qin Changqing under her feet, and a faint arc appeared at the corner of her lips. What? Are you still arrogant in front of me? Hearing this question, Qin Changqing really had no words to say. Even if he wanted to be arrogant now, he couldn't be arrogant. Bang! Murong Shan suddenly raised her foot and stepped on him again. Ah! Cough cough. Qin Changqing screamed in pain at first, and then he started coughing again, and his face became redder. I asked you a question, and you don't know how to answer it, Murong Shan said in a cold voice. Qin Changqing was about to cry now, and it turned out that he was stepped on this time simply because he didn't answer Murong Shan's question just now. The problem was that within 2 seconds of Murong Shan's question, he was stepped on again before he even had a chance to think. Seeing Murong Shan raising her foot to step on him again, he didn't care about his face anymore and said quickly, I won't dare to do it again. I won't dare to be arrogant anymore. Please spare me. He really didn't want to continue to endure the pain of being stepped on. Who am I? Murong Shan asked. Mew? Qin Changqing opened his mouth and said the word Mew. Bang! Before he could finish his words, Murong Shan stepped on him again. Qin Changqing continued to endure the pain and cough. I'm a goddess, do you know? Murong Shan said. Now, not only Qin Changqing looked dazed, but the people watching around him also felt confused. When they heard Murong Shan asking Qin Changqing who am I, they thought that Murong Shan just wanted Qin Changqing to remember her name. So, Qin Changqing opened his mouth to answer with the word Mew, and wanted to say the name Murong Shan. Who knew that Murong Shan's purpose was not this at all, but to make Qin Changqing praise her as a goddess. Qin Changqing is too tragic. He got misunderstanding and got stepped on. It's really a human tragedy. I feel a little sympathetic for him. This story tells us a truth. Don't provoke women easily, otherwise, you don't know how you will be dealt with. The more beautiful a woman is, the more you should not provoke her. Before you provoke her, remember to remind yourself how miserable Qin Changqing is now. Everyone couldn't help but sigh. Hearing these sentimental voices, Qin Changqing just wanted to look up and shout that the baby was bitter in his heart, but the baby didn't dare to say it. There was no way. Who let Murong Shan's foot still step on his chest? Bang! Murong Shan raised her foot and stepped on it again. Qin Changqing coughed so hard that a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The expression on his face could be said to give people a pain that went deep into the bone marrow. Goddess. I was wrong. I will never dare to be arrogant in front of you again. Please forgive me. Every time I see you in the future, I will call you goddess. Qin Changqing woke up and spoke quickly. He felt that if he continued like this, Murin Shan would break his ribs sooner or later. Remember what you said now. If you can't do it in the future, I will beat you up every time I see you, Murin Shan said lightly. Remember, I will never forget it, Qin Changqing agreed faster than anything else. That's more like it, Murin Shan nodded slightly, and then took her foot off Qin Changqing's chest. At this moment, Qin Changqing felt relieved and was about to take a long breath. As a result, Murin Shan raised her foot and kicked him in the butt with a bang, kicking him sideways and flying out. Keep your distance from me, otherwise I can't help but want to hit you when I see your face that deserves a beating, Murin Shan said, and then turned around and walked back to Murin Zhu and Li Zihun. Qin Changqing was almost so angry that he vomited blood. If you want me to keep my distance from you, why don't you just say it directly? Why do you still want to kick me out? The people around were also swallowing their saliva quietly. If they had the idea of chatting up Murin Shan before, then after that, such an idea had been forcibly strangled in the cradle. They really couldn't afford to provoke Murin Shan like this. They still wanted to live a few more years like normal people, otherwise their end would be much worse than Qin Changqing. Sister Zihun, how was my performance just now? Murin Shan returned to Murin Zhu and Li Zihun and asked with a smile. Very good. Very good, Murin Zhu praised. This kind of person should be taught such a lesson, Li Zihun also said. However, from the tone of both of them, it can be heard that they were unexpected by Murin Shan's behavior just now. Hearing Murin Zhu and Li Zihun's answers, Murin Shan chuckled. Then, the three of them simultaneously looked at the battlefield between Lin Fan and Qin Changqing. Bang! Bang! The battle between Lin Fan and Qin Changqing can be said to be very intense. But anyone can see that Qin Changqing's face is getting darker and darker. Qin Changqing's mood was not much better than Qin Changqing's. He also felt that he was at a disadvantage because of his carelessness at first. If he hadn't been so careless, he would have been able to defeat Lin Fan. But as the fight continued, he found that Lin Fan's strength was not worse than his. No matter how hard he tried, he could not hurt Lin Fan. In fact, up to now, he had not even landed a punch on Lin Fan. Either Lin Fan dodged it or blocked it head-on. How can this kid react so quickly? Also, his body is too strong. When my fist collided with his fist, it felt like a punch hitting a piece of iron. What's going on? Qin Changqing's eyes flickered, and doubts kept emerging in his mind. These two doubts were the most intuitive feelings he had after fighting with Lin Fan. Because Lin Fan was always able to avoid his attacks, which was enough to show that Lin Fan's reaction was faster than his. Secondly, when his fist collided with Lin Fan's fist, he really felt like he was hitting a piece of iron, which made his fist feel very painful. But every time he looked back at Lin Fan, he did not see any painful expression on Lin Fan's face, which was enough to prove that Lin Fan was not in pain, only he was in pain. Logically speaking, they were all level 3 evolvers, and the collision under such circumstances should not have such a big gap. How could the gap be so obvious? Chapter 428 can continue. Qin Changqing naturally couldn't ask Lin Fan about these two doubts directly. He knew very well that even if he asked, Lin Fan would not tell him. So, in this situation, he could only hold on. After all, it would be too embarrassing to call a stop in the middle of the game. He was a genius level master after all. Even if he lost, he couldn't do such a shameful thing. Thinking of this, Qin Changqing took a deep breath and continued to fight with Lin Fan. Why didn't Lin Fan defeat him directly? Mu Hongling was in the crowd, her beautiful eyes were always locked on Lin Fan, and this doubt emerged in her mind. Judging from the fact that Lin Fan had been doing the plank for such a long time, she could be 100% sure that Lin Fan's strength was stronger than Qin Changqing. Although Qin Changqing's strength was not bad, it was impossible for Lin Fan to not defeat Qin Changqing after fighting for such a long time. Even if she took action to deal with Qin Changqing, she had a certain degree of confidence, not to mention Lin Fan's level. Therefore, she was very confused about the fact that Lin Fan did not defeat Qin Changqing. Is he delaying time on purpose, not wanting to show it too obviously? Mu Hongling was also a smart girl, and she quickly figured out the key to the problem. Yes, that must be the case, Mu Hongling confirmed her guess. She felt that only this reason could explain why Lin Fan did not defeat Qin Changqing. Did he do it on purpose? Li Keishu's eyes were always on the battle between Lin Fan and Qin Changqing. Perhaps in the eyes of others, the strength of Qin Shangquang and Lin Fan was not much different, which led to the fact that the two of them had fought for such a long time without a clear winner. But in the eyes of a person with a sharp eye like him, it was clear that when Lin Fan dealt with Qin Shangquang, he was in a state of ease. In other words, it was not too difficult for Lin Fan to deal with Qin Shangquang. And to maintain this state, it can only mean one thing, that is, Lin Fan's strength is stronger than Qin Shangquang, and there is no other way. Qin Shangquang already has the strength of a peak level 3 evolver, and he can still deal with him with ease. At least it can be confirmed that his strength is infinitely close to that of a level 4 evolver. Li Keqiu narrowed his eyes slightly, and thought to himself, sure enough, he is my strongest competitor here. Next, let's see who will break through to become a level 4 evolver first. Li Keqiu also has a very accurate assessment of his own strength. He knows that he now has the strength infinitely close to that of a level 4 evolver, and Lin Fan also has such strength. It is equivalent to that if he and Lin Fan fight, it will be difficult to tell the winner between them. Then, he and Lin Fan have only one thing to compete, that is, to see who breaks through to become a level 4 evolver first. Whoever breaks through first will be stronger than the other. Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang are still watching from a high place, but it can be clearly seen that Fen Kang's expression is much more solemn, while Chu Hongsun looks relaxed. After all, in the battle just now, Muran Zhu, Muran Shan and Li Zihan can be said to have won a great victory and beat Xiao Liu and others severely. Although defeating Xiao Liu and his men was not a particularly honorable thing, with so many people watching, the loss of face was not small at all. Fen Kang was a man who cared about his reputation. How could he feel good when he saw Xiao Liu and his men being defeated? However, Fen Kang was not an ordinary person, but a genuine level 5 evolver. His vision was even more vicious than Li Keqiu's. Even Li Keqiu could see the difference in strength between Qin Shangquang and Lin Fan, so he could see this difference even more. No, we can't let them continue to compete. If we continue to compete, Qin Shangquang will definitely lose to Lin Fan. Once Qin Shangquang loses to Lin Fan, it will definitely be a big blow to the morale of our camp, and it will affect the mood of the students. Fen Kang's eyes condensed slightly, and he analyzed it secretly in his heart. Qin Shangquang was definitely the second strongest in his camp, and this was also something everyone in his camp knew. Under such circumstances, if Qin Shangquang was defeated by Lin Fan in front of so many people, it would be a big blow to the students in his camp. After careful analysis, Fen Kang felt that it was time to end the current situation and not let Lin Fan and Qin Shangquang continue to fight. Old Chu, they have been fighting for quite some time. I think it's almost time. Let them disperse. Fen Kang tilted his head and glanced at Chu Hongsun next to him, and said in a calm tone. Although he knew that Chu Hongsun could see that Qin Shangquang's strength was not as good as Lin Fan, he could not directly admit this fact. Hearing Fen Kang's words, Chu Hongsun also briefly withdrew his gaze, turned his head and looked at Fen Kang, and nodded, saying, "Okay, I think so too." Such a competition should be stopped at a certain point and not last too long. Chu Hongsun knew that Lin Fan was deliberately hiding his strength and deliberately not defeating Qin Shangquang quickly. Anyway, Muran Zhu, Muran Shan and Li Zihan had already made some headlines. Continuing to let Lin Fan and Qin Shangquang fight together would only waste more time. Okay, let's go. Fen Kang also nodded. The two of them didn't waste any time and walked directly to the big square. I didn't expect Lin Fan to be so strong that he could fight Qin Shangquang like this. Yeah, I didn't think of it before, and I don't know who is stronger between the two of them. I can't tell. Anyway, I really can't tell. I just know that both of them are much stronger than me. Aren't you talking nonsense? If their strength is not much stronger than yours, then you are also a real master, Alice. How can the gap between people be so big? Many people began to sigh. However, at the moment when they sighed, someone noticed that two figures appeared at the back of the square. Instructor Chu and Instructor Feng are coming, the man who saw Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang said hurriedly. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes turned to Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang. We actually attracted two instructors here. I don't know how this will end. SHH, keep your voice down. Don't let the instructors hear us. If they punish us, we will be in trouble. Yes, I don't want to experience the instructor's punishment at all. Whoever wants to experience it can go ahead. But don't drag us into it, everyone whispered. Chapter 429 Let's all go. After staying here for a few days, all of them have understood Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang's strength, and know that Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang are level 5 evolvers. Therefore, in front of Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang, they basically dare not breathe. The appearance of Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang undoubtedly put a lot of pressure on them. One after another, eyes converged on Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang. Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang were naturally not surprised by these eyes. The two of them did not delay and walked directly to the chair. Oh, the two instructors are here. They must know that we are fighting here. We won't be punished, right? Murong Shan saw Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang walking over, her pretty face condensed slightly, and she cried out. It shouldn't be. Li Zihan shook his head. Yes, I don't think so either. Murong thought for a moment and quickly analyzed. What happened here has been going on for quite some time. If the two instructors wanted to know, they should have known about it a long time ago. But they didn't rush over as soon as they knew about it, but waited until now to come over, which is enough to show that they did it on purpose. Yes, they were probably watching the show somewhere before, and only chose to show up after seeing our performance. Li Zihan followed up. Then, isn't it equivalent to Instructor Chu being very happy and Instructor Fen being very bitter? Murong Shan said. Murong and Li Zihan looked at each other, then looked at Murong Shan together, and said in unison, it's a very apt description. Yes, they both felt that Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang should have such different feelings. After all, they performed very well, and Chu Hongsun couldn't be unhappy. On the contrary, the better they performed, the less likely Fen Kang would be happy. These two are absolutely in a contradictory relationship. However, we still have to wait until Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang deal with it to know what the specific treatment will be. If they want to punish them for fighting casually, the reason is very legitimate. Lin Fan and Qin Chang Kuang naturally noticed the arrival of Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang, but Qin Chang Kuang seemed a little crazy at this time, and did not mean to stop, and continued to attack Lin Fan. Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang walked up. Chu Hongsun did not speak, but Fen Kang took the lead to say, don't fight anymore, there is no way. He can see that Qin Chang Kuang's strength is not as good as Lin Fan, and if he continues to fight, Qin Chang Kuang will definitely lose to Lin Fan. Chu Hongsun wants to see this situation, but he doesn't want to see it. Therefore, even if Chu Hongsun doesn't say anything to stop him, he must say something. Although Qin Chang Kuang is a stubborn person and thinks that he must regain his face here with Lin Fan today, he is not so stubborn that he doesn't even care about the instructor. Once Fen Kang's words spread, he had to stop even if he didn't want to stop in his heart. Bang! Qin Chang Kuang and Lin Fan's fists collided for the last time in this battle, and then both of them stopped fighting and stood still. If someone was paying attention, they would notice that Qin Chang Kuang's fist had obvious red marks. This redness was obviously caused by hitting a hard object. On the other hand, Lin Fan's fist was fine, and the color had not changed at all, as if he had not fought with Qin Chang Kuang at all. Of course, not many people can notice such details, especially some people who are just watching the fun. They only see that Lin Fan and Qin Chang Kuang have fought to a draw, and they can't even see Lin Fan's ease. For such people, don't expect them to observe the details. Instructor, Lin Fan greeted politely. Instructor, Qin Chang Kuang also greeted. Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang both nodded. Then, Fen Kang continued, what's wrong with you? Lin Fan didn't speak. Qin Chang Kuang stood up and answered, Instructor, we are just here to spar with each other. We want to see how much we have improved after a week of training. Qin Chang Kuang would not tell the truth, as that would be too embarrassing. Fen Kang obviously knew that Qin Chang Kuang was lying, but Qin Chang Kuang was in his camp, so he would not expose Qin Chang Kuang's lies. Sparring, Fen Kang narrowed his eyes and nodded, saying, it's okay to spar with each other, but we can't spar casually. As he spoke, he glanced at everyone and said loudly, remember, if you want to spar with each other in the future, you must first report to me and Instructor Chu. If you don't report, there will be punishment. This is the first time, so I will let it go. In short, you must report in advance in the future. Yes, hearing this, everyone answered in unison. Reporting in advance means that after the instructor knows who the person who is sparring with is, he can allow them to spar or not. So, from a certain perspective, this is also a simple means of control. If the strength of the two camps is not much different, and there are no outstanding people competing, it doesn't matter, just let them compete. But if both camps are very outstanding talents who want to compete, it is better not to allow them, so that there will be no problem of who will affect the morale of the other side after losing. Okay, let's all go. Fen Kang waved his hand. The purpose of their coming here was to stop Lin Fan and Qin Shangqing from continuing to fight to decide the winner. Now that the goal has been achieved, they can also retreat. However, in order to prevent Qin Shangqing from feeling unwilling, he looked at Qin Shangqing and said, "Qin Shangqing, come with me, I just want to talk to you about something." "Okay, instructor." Qin Shangqing nodded, not daring to disobey Feng Kang's order. Feng Kang took Qin Shangqing and left a large square first. Chu Hongxun glanced at Lin Fan, then at Murangxu, Murongshan and Li Zihan, and a smile that everyone understood flashed in his eyes, and he also turned and left here. Now that so many students are here, he can't say anything to praise him, otherwise if these words fall into Feng Kang's ears, it will sound a bit sinister. After Chu Hongxun left, Lin Fan also looked at Murangxu, Murangshan and Li Zihan, and said with a smile, "Then let's go back and rest. We have been walking outside all day today, and it's time to rest." Yeah, Murangxu, Murangshan and Li Zihan had no objection to this, and walked back to the accommodation area with Lin Fan. However, on the way back, Murangshan was still very curious and asked, "By the way, brother Lin Fan, did you deliberately not defeat that guy just now?" Chapter 432 Possibilities. Yes, I just didn't defeat him on purpose. Lin Fan didn't hide anything from Murangshan's doubts. He nodded and said, "It's only the first week now, and it's still a long way to go before the competition between the two camps. There's no need to show stronger strength so quickly. What's more, Qin Shangqing himself is not my target. If he hadn't come to stand up for Qin Shangqing, I wouldn't have fought him. But now that he's here, if I don't fight him to prove it, he'll think we're easy to bully." What Lin Fan said was also true. If Qin Shangqing didn't come to trouble him, he wouldn't have been bored enough to trouble Qin Shangqing. After all, he and Qin Shangqing didn't know each other, and the only conflict was Qin Shangqing. Qin Shangqing wanted to go to Qin Shangqing to embarrass himself. If he didn't meet this request, it would be too wrong. So, he chose to meet Qin Shangqing's masochistic request. "Brother Lin Fan, although you didn't beat that guy up, Qin Shangqing and the others have been beaten up by us. It's really a relief," Murangshan said happily. When she beat Qin Shangqing, she really enjoyed it. "Haha, I saw it," Lin Fan laughed. When he was fighting with Qin Shangqing, he was always paying attention to the surroundings, so he naturally knew what happened to Murangshan and the others. "If I hadn't thought about so many people watching, I would have continued to beat him until he couldn't take care of himself." Murangshan waved her little fist. It seemed that she really hated Qin Shangqing and wanted to beat Qin Shangqing to death. "Do you want to beat him so much?" Lin Fan looked at Murangshan in surprise. "Yes, who made him have such a face that deserves a beating?" Murangshan said. "It really looks like he deserves a beating." Lin Fan smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, there will be opportunities in the future. There's indeed a chance, at least, there will be a chance when the two camps are compared." Soon, the four of them took Andy back to the room and began to rest. On the left side of the base, in a rather luxuriously decorated office, two figures were there. These two figures were naturally Feng Kang and Qin Shangqing. After leaving the square just now, Feng Kang took Qin Shangqing directly to the office. Feng Kang sat on the sofa first and glanced at Qin Shangqing, who was still standing. "Shangqing, sit down and talk." Hearing Feng Kang's words, Qin Shangqing did not waste any time and sat down. He looked at Feng Kang. Although Feng Kang did not say what it was, he could actually imagine it. After a brief silence, Feng Kang did not waste time and asked, "There were many people there before, and I know you didn't tell the truth. Now there are only two of us. Can you tell me the truth? What exactly is the reason for the conflict with Lin Fan?" Qin Shangqing took a deep breath and told the whole story. After listening to what Qin Shangqing said, Feng Kang could roughly judge that it must be Qin Shangqing and others who provoked Lin Fan and others first, which led to this incident. However, this matter has become a thing of the past, and he does not want to pursue who is responsible. "Then tell me, how did you feel about the battle between you and Lin Fan just now?" Feng Kang continued to ask. Qin Shangqing nodded and replied, "I found that his strength seems to be stronger than mine. This strength, to be specific, is reflected in his reaction and his body. Every time I attack him, he can react quickly and successfully avoid my attack, and then find an opportunity to counterattack me. Then, my fist and his fist collided with each other, and he was fine, but I felt very painful. In fact, at the end, my hand was red, and his hand was still fine. This surprised me very much." "Oh? So strong body." Feng Kang frowned slightly. Regarding the first point, he did not want to delve into it. After all, even if everyone is a third-level evolver, everyone's reaction speed is different. Maybe Lin Fan is born to react faster than others. This possibility is not impossible. But the second point, physical strength, he also felt very strange. Logically speaking, judging from the performance of Qin Shangquang and Lin Fan, even if there is a gap between their strengths, it can't be too big. Qin Shangquang is at least at the peak of the third-level evolver. When he and Lin Fan collided, he had to guess another question. Could it be that the boy's strength has reached the fourth-level evolver? Feng Kang murmured. Fourth-level evolver? Qin Shangquang was shocked when he heard it, and then shook his head and said, impossible. Instructor, if he really has the strength of a fourth-level evolver, he would definitely beat me easily, but he didn't beat me. Just because he didn't beat you doesn't mean he can't do it. It's very likely that he is hiding his strength, Feng Kang said in a deep voice. This, Qin Shangquang opened his mouth, and for a moment he didn't know what to say. If he is not a level 4 evolver, then how do you explain the second point you mentioned? We are all level 3 evolvers, how could our physical strengths differ to such an extent? Since there is such a difference, it can only mean one thing, his body is much stronger than yours. Feng Kang stared at Qin Shangquang and said in a serious tone, you are already at the peak of level 3 evolvers, and his body is much stronger than yours. Then tell me, what kind of person is he? Boom. Feng Kang's words exploded in Qin Shangquang's mind like a huge bell. He really didn't think that Lin Fan was a level 4 evolver before. After all, Lin Fan looked so young. If he was already a level 4 evolver, then his potential for growth was really unlimited. So, he didn't even think about it. But now that Feng Kang analyzed it, he felt it made a lot of sense. If Lin Fan was not a level 4 evolver, it would be impossible for him to make his fist red when he was fighting with Lin Fan, but Lin Fan didn't react at all. This is enough to explain many problems. Instructor, does that mean Lin Fan is still the strongest among all our students? Qin Shangquang asked in a serious tone. We can't rule out this possibility. Feng Kang nodded. Even Li Keishu is not his opponent, Qin Shangquang asked. Chapter 431 Instructing Qin Shangquang. I know Li Keishu's strength. He should not be able to defeat a level 4 evolver. After all, the strength of a level 4 evolver is not just talk. To defeat a level 4 evolver, one must have a very powerful superpower to do it at the level of a level 3 evolver. Feng Kang thought for a moment before continuing, this Lin Fan should not have any superpowers. I have never heard of him before. Moreover, when he fought with you, he did not use his superpowers, which means he does not have any superpowers. In short, there is at least a 90% chance that Lin Fan is a level 4 evolver. What is the remaining 10%? Qin Shangquang asked humbly. The remaining 10% means that he may have a superpower. Once this power is used, it can make his body stronger, so when your fists collide with his fists, you will suffer greater damage, Feng Kang said. Is there such a superpower? Qin Shangquang was stunned. Superpowers are diverse, and no one knows how many there are, but what is certain is that such superpowers definitely exist, but we have not seen them before, Feng Kang nodded. Then I would rather believe that Lin Fan is one of the 10%, Qin Shangquang clenched his palms together and said, otherwise, he broke through to become a 4th level evolver so quickly, which is really a huge blow to us. Feng Kang glanced at Qin Shangquang, and then comforted him, whether he has the strength of a 4th level evolver or not, you can't be discouraged. You have to know that the one who laughs last is the winner. It's not time for the two camps to compare. There is still time. I believe that you and Li Keishu will soon break through to become 4th level evolvers. Feng Kang could see that Li Keishu and Qin Shangquang had high growth potential. They were bound to break through to become 4th level evolvers, it was just a matter of time. Lin Fan is indeed a tough opponent, Qin Shangquang said in a deep voice. Only with such an opponent can your potential be further stimulated. You have only one goal next, which is to strive to reach the level of a level 4 evolver. Feng Kang's eyes condensed, and he said, if Lin Fan is really a level 4 evolver, then only if you become a level 4 evolver can you have a chance to defeat him. Do you understand? I understand, Qin Shangquang nodded solemnly. He had to admit that with his current strength, he could never defeat a level 4 evolver. If he wanted to defeat a level 4 evolver, he would have to become a level 4 evolver first. That's enough. I won't say anything more. Go back and have a good rest. We will continue training tomorrow, Feng Kang said. Okay, instructor, I'll go back first. Qin Shangquang stood up, said goodbye, and without further delay, he turned around and walked out of the office and walked back to the accommodation area. After seeing Qin Shangquang walk out, Feng Kang's brows were also locked tightly together, and he whispered, "Is that kid a level 4 evolver?" Feng Kang was also full of curiosity about this question, but he was an instructor, and Lin Fan was a student in Chu Hongsun's camp. He couldn't ask Chu Hongsun and Lin Fan, let alone test Lin Fan's true strength. That would undoubtedly break the rules. People who break the rules will naturally be punished by the leader, and he doesn't want to be punished by the leader for such a thing. Qin Shangquang quickly returned to the accommodation area. As he expected, Qin Shangquang and others were standing at the door of his room. Seeing Qin Shangquang and others in such a miserable state, Qin Shangquang was very angry, but he could do nothing. There was no way. Lin Fan's strength was too strong. Even if he tried his best, he couldn't get any benefits from Lin Fan. "Come in with me." Qin Shangquang's eyes fell on Qin Shangquang and said lightly. Qin Shangquang nodded in response and followed Qin Shangquang into the room. "Brother, what is the reason why the instructor asked you to go?" Qin Shangquang asked curiously. He has been curious about this question since just now, but Qin Shangquang just came back, so he can only ask now. Qin Shangquang glanced at him and said, "What else could it be? Of course it's because of what happened just now. The instructor asked me to explain clearly what caused the conflict with Lin Fan." "Ah. What did you say, brother?" Qin Shangquang asked again. "The instructor asked me to go over and ask alone. Shouldn't I tell the truth? Do I have to lie?" Qin Shangquang glared at Qin Shangquang unhappily. "Will the instructor punish us?" Qin Shangquang asked a little scared. "He has been beaten twice today. If he is punished again, he really doesn't know how to face the punishment." "No, don't worry. If the instructor wants to punish us, he will punish us in the big square before. After all, fighting is not a one-sided matter for us. If there is a punishment, everyone will be punished. How can he punish us alone?" Qin Shangquang shook his head and said. That's good, that's good." Qin Shangquang breathed a sigh of relief. Soon, he clenched his fists tightly again, gritting his teeth and said, "It's so infuriating. I didn't expect them to be so strong." Qin Shangquang also felt infuriating. Not only did he not get his face back, but he also found that Lin Fan was stronger than him, and there was even a high probability that he was a level 4 evolver. He took a deep breath again, calmed down and said, "Shangquang, I'm telling you now, without my permission, you guys can't provoke Lin Fan and the others again. If this happens again, I will definitely not care. Do you understand, brother?" "I heard it clearly." Qin Shangquang nodded seriously. He knew that if Qin Shangquang could say such a thing, it meant that Qin Shangquang had no chance to defeat Lin Fan at the moment. Only when Qin Shangquang felt that he could defeat Lin Fan would he go to trouble Lin Fan again. What he could do was to quietly wait for the moment when Qin Shangquang's strength surpassed Lin Fan. At that time, he would still take back what he lost from Lin Fan. "Okay, you've done enough today. Go back and rest early. You still have to attend training tomorrow morning. If you don't do well in training, the instructor will definitely punish you," Qin Shangquang said. "Yes." Qin Shangquang nodded again, then turned and walked out of the room. He said something to Xiao Liu and the others, and everyone went back to their rooms to rest. Qin Shangquang did not delay either, and also lay on the bed to rest. He also needed to adjust his mental state to welcome tomorrow's training. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432 Second Week Training. The next morning, everyone gathered in the big square again. According to the previous practice, Chu Hongsun first called the roll, and after confirming that all the students had arrived, he began to speak loudly. "This is the second week of your training here. The training program in the second week is naturally different from the first week. Now, follow me." After the voice fell, Chu Hongsun turned and walked towards the left side of the base. Although everyone was very curious about the training program in the second week, it was impossible to ask questions at this time. They could only follow Chu Hongsun obediently and they would naturally know the training program later. The group walked for about 5 minutes and came to the far left of the base. Here, they saw a wall, to be precise, a very high wall, according to estimates, at least 100 meters high. On this wall, There were some things that could be climbed. This is the training program for your second week. Climb this wall, climb up from this side, and then climb down from the other side. Chu Hongsun pointed at the wall and said loudly. Oh my god. Climbing such a high wall is too difficult, yes, and there are not many places to step on the wall, and the distance between them is not close. This is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that other people's rock climbing has protective measures, but our rock climbing does not have any protective measures. It must be completed purely by hands and feet. If you step on empty space after climbing up, you will inevitably face the situation of falling down. It's really hard to say what will happen if you fall from such a height, so, you must be careful when climbing, otherwise you will lose your life if you are not careful. I say you people are cowardly. We have all experienced the first week of training. If the second week of training is less difficult than the first week of training, then what improvement can we make? Everyone understands this principle, but there is no need to increase the difficulty to this extent, right? You are not convinced, right? If you are not convinced, you can go to the instructor to talk. Everyone started a heated discussion. Although the discussion was a discussion, no one of them really dared to ask Chu Hongsun. Murin Shan looked up at the wall, frowned slightly, and said, such a high wall is indeed very challenging. Well, you must be careful when climbing. Lin Fan nodded and stared at them. Brother Lin Fan, don't worry, we will be very careful. Murin Shan nodded slightly. Murin Zhu and Li Zihan also nodded. As those people said, climbing such a high wall, if you are not careful and fall down, it is definitely not a joke. Chu Hongsun glanced at everyone and said loudly again, everyone, climbing this wall will not provide you with any protection. You are at risk of falling and getting injured. Even if it is a bit serious, it is possible to fall to death, so, I have to let you make a choice now, whether to continue training or quit. I will not have any opinion on those who choose to quit. After all, life is not a joke, but we have our own rules. If you choose to quit, you have to leave this training base, because this training base only accepts those who are brave enough to move forward. Even in the face of any dangers and difficulties, you must keep a heart that moves forward. Okay, you have 3 minutes to think. After 3 minutes, those who want to continue to participate, stand on the left, and those who choose to quit, stand on the right. At that time, those who choose to quit, we will arrange a helicopter to send you back to where you came from. When Chu Hongsun's voice fell, everyone began to look at each other. Some people had the idea of quitting in their hearts, and some people were more determined to stay. Because, after only 1 week of training, they could clearly feel that their strength had improved a lot. The second week of training was more difficult than the first week. It was easy to imagine that the strength would be improved even more after the training. However, those who had the idea of quitting only had the idea for a short while. After that short while, all their ideas of quitting were killed. They came here to grow stronger and to improve their strength faster. This was only the second week, and they were facing the second week of training. If they were scared off before they started, not to mention how much they could grow in the future, this choice was too cowardly. They didn't want to be regarded as cowards. Even if they really had to die, they had to die in training, not as deserters. Deserters were shameful and reviled in any era. 3 minutes passed quickly, and everyone stood on the left, and no one stood on the right. Seeing this result, Chu Hongsun was quite satisfied. He smiled and said, very good, you all made the right choice. Continuing to stay and train will bring you greater benefits and will also improve your strength faster. Since this rock climbing training is dangerous, there is no mandatory requirement. You can adjust the speed according to your actual situation. If you think you can master it, then go faster. If you don't think you can master it, then go slower, Chu Hongsun said, and suddenly emphasized with a serious face, in short, safety first. Although we won't give you any protection measures, you have to protect yourself, overcome the fear in your heart, and at the same time, try to do your best. Do you understand? Understand, everyone answered in unison, and the sound felt like it was soaring into the sky. Okay, since everyone understands, let's get ready to start training. Chu Hongsun waved his hand and announced. Instructor Chu, we are going to rock climbing training, and what about Andy? Andy can't go rock climbing too, right? Murin Shan looked at Chu Hongsun and asked. Although Andy is not necessarily worse than humans, he still has legs instead of arms, so he certainly cannot do the same rock climbing movements as humans. As for Andy, he definitely can't challenge rock climbing with you. I have arranged other training programs for him, but they are not on this place. I will take him there after you start training. Chu Hongsun looked at Murin Shen and responded with a smile. Chapter 433, 1.5 minutes to the top. Okay, thank you, Instructor Chu. Let's start training. Instructor Chu, take Andy to train. Lin Fan also nodded, then glanced at Andy and said, Andy, you have to listen to Instructor Chu's arrangements. You have to train as Instructor Chu tells you to, understand? Hearing what Lin Fan said, Andy nodded obediently. Okay, then you train as you like. I'll take Andy over. After Chu Hongsun said that, he didn't delay any longer and walked in front. Andy took a look and quickly followed. Without Chu Hongsun watching here, everyone seemed to feel a lot less pressure. One by one, they didn't hesitate anymore and began to try their best. The area of this wall is very wide, and there is no problem for 50 people to climb at the same time. It can also be seen from here that when this wall was built, it must have cost a lot of manpower and financial resources. Lin Fan was not in a hurry to try, but continued to stand there and wait. He was not in a hurry for a while. Brother Lin Fan, when are you going to start rock climbing? Seeing that Lin Fan had no intention of taking action, Murin Shen asked curiously. Wait a little longer. Let the first group of people try first. It won't be too late for us to try after they try, Lin Fan said with a smile. Okay, let's see their performance first, Murin Shen nodded. In fact, most of the first group of people who tried were second-level evolvers. Although their strength has improved a lot after the first week of training, relatively speaking, there is not much difference between this rock climbing training and plank support training. Of course, plank support has a certain effect on training arm strength. If the arm strength is strong, it will be easier to use force when climbing, so that you can climb faster. However, this is their first attempt, and it is impossible to climb too successfully. It takes more practice to do it. Most of the first group of second-level evolvers stopped climbing at a height of 50 meters and were forced to return to the ground to rest and adjust their status. In fact, climbing without any protective measures not only faces safety issues, but also psychological problems. After all, most people who come here are afraid of heights. People with acrophobia will feel dizzy when standing in a place protected by a wall and looking down, not to mention that when climbing, there are no wall obstacles and they can only rely on their hands and feet for support. Just now, several people looked at the ground and were so scared that their legs went weak. Brother Lin Fan, the first batch has returned. Shall we try it now? Murin Shan glanced at the first batch of people who returned, and then tilted her head to look at Lin Fan next to her. Okay, let's try it. Lin Fan nodded. The appearance of Lin Fan, Murin Zhu, Murin Shan and Li Zihan naturally attracted people's attention instantly. It can be said that the four of them are now very famous, especially Lin Fan, whose fame is greater than that of the three beauties. Seeing Lin Fan and the other four walk out, Mu Hongling also took a step. She was also not on the first batch to try rock climbing just now. It's not that she didn't want to try, but she was with Lin Fan when he tried. If Lin Fan didn't try now and had to wait for the next group, then she would still wait for the next group before going out. Because her current target was Lin Fan. That girl followed us when she saw us climbing. Murin Shan glanced at Mu Hongling from the corner of her eye and said helplessly. It's okay, we'll climb our own way. Murin Zhu shook her head and said. Soon, they came to the bottom of the wall. Let's get started. Lin Fan glanced at Murin Zhu, Murin Shan and Li Zihan, and said with a smile. Okay, Murin Zhu, Murin Shan and Li Zihan naturally had no different opinions, and all nodded. After the voice fell, Lin Fan began to climb the rock. Seeing this, Murin Zhu, Murin Shan and Li Zihan also followed to climb the rock. Mu Hongling on the other side also did not delay. She didn't want to compete with Murin Zhu and the other two, but just wanted to compete with Lin Fan. Lin Fan's climbing speed was very fast. In less than 10 seconds, he had already climbed a height of 15 meters. Such a speed made many people stunned. Compared to Lin Fan, Murin Zhu and the other two were definitely not as fast, but they were much faster than the first group. Half a minute later, Lin Fan had already climbed to a height of 40 meters. This was his first time climbing, and he had never tried it before. He also needed some time to become proficient. However, being able to reach such a speed for the first time was already quite powerful. 1 minute later, Lin Fan climbed to a height of 70 meters. At this time, Mu Hongling had already reached a height of 60 meters. Mu Hongling knew very well that as long as Lin Fan did not make any mistakes, She would not be able to catch up with Lin Fan under normal circumstances, and could only get as close to Lin Fan as possible. After more than 20 seconds, Lin Fan had already reached a height of 95 meters. At such a high position, the wind blowing in the face was already very strong. People with poor psychological quality, even if they look down at the ground, would probably faint from the feeling of such wind. Lin Fan's psychological quality was absolutely no problem. Fuck. This rock climbing speed is too fast. Yeah, it's only been less than a minute and a half, and he has already climbed so high. He is just a little bit away from climbing over the wall. Too fast, really too fast. Lin Fan is indeed the strongest person on our side. Mu Hongling is not bad either. She has already reached a height of 80 meters. Although there is still a certain gap between her and Lin Fan, she is also the second best performer. Yes, Mu Hongling's strength is very strong. Anyway, we can't catch up. Everyone kept looking up at the situation on the wall, and their eyes almost fell on Lin Fan and Mu Hongling. There was no way, mainly because Lin Fan and Mu Hongling climbed the highest, it was difficult not to attract people's attention. Lin Fan didn't waste any time and continued to climb up. After 3 seconds, he reached the top of the wall. Up. It took only 1.5 minutes to reach the top. Lin Fan's climb to the top undoubtedly made the atmosphere here boil. Although they never thought that Lin Fan couldn't climb up, they didn't expect that Lin Fan would climb so fast. The most important thing is that this is Lin Fan's first attempt. After more attempts, this time will undoubtedly be shortened. At this moment, they are looking forward to how many seconds Lin Fan will take to complete the climb. Chapter 434 How does it feel? After Lin Fan reached the top, he looked down from above, and almost took in the scenery of the entire training base. However, he did not look for long, just a few seconds before retracting his gaze. Then, he did not delay any longer, turned behind the wall, and continued to climb down. In fact, the process of going down was not simple. Because when going down, you must look down to see where the things you can step on are. And in the process of looking down, you will definitely see the height of the ground from yourself, and many people with poor psychological quality will still be scared. For Lin Fan, this problem is not a problem. He quickly slid down, and in about half a minute, he slid down from above and stood steadily on the ground. At this time, Mu Hongling also completed the work of climbing to the top. It's a lot slower than him. Mu Hongling looked down at Lin Fan standing below, and said secretly in her heart. At the beginning, she thought the gap between her and Lin Fan was only about 10 seconds, but she didn't expect that the difference was more than 20 seconds. You know, the difference of more than 20 seconds cannot be made up by simply becoming more skilled. After all, while she was becoming proficient, Lin Fan was not standing still without training. Moreover, Lin Fan's talent might be stronger than hers. When she was proficient, Lin Fan could also continue to be proficient. When the two were compared, Lin Fan was still more proficient. After exhaling lightly, Mu Hongling did not think about this matter anymore. Anyway, she could just regard Lin Fan as her goal. She would relax when she surpassed Lin Fan. Mu Hongling also came down from the top of the wall quickly. She glanced at Lin Fan, and Lin Fan happened to look at her, and the two looked at each other. But this kind of gaze was very short, and both sides withdrew their gazes. Although they did not say a word this time, Lin Fan could feel from Mu Hongling's eyes that Mu Hongling seemed to regard him as a goal to surpass. Realizing this situation, Lin Fan could only sigh helplessly in his heart. He just wanted to train well, but he did not expect that Mu Hongling would regard him as a target to surpass. Sister, we have climbed 70 meters now. How do you two feel? Murin Shan held on tightly with both hands. While taking a break, she turned her head to look at Murinzu and Li Zihan beside her. Because the strength of the three of them was not very different, the distance between them was not very different when climbing. Hearing Murin Shan's question, Murinzu was the first to speak. I don't feel anything too obvious. Me too, Li Zihan followed. To be honest, they are not afraid of heights, so there is no problem in overcoming the height. The only problem is that climbing this wall is not easy, especially the higher they go, the fewer places they can climb. They must master the sense of balance during the climbing process. If the sense of balance is not well mastered, it is very likely to fall down. Xiao Shan, how about you? How do you feel? Murinzu looked at Murin Shan and asked. I think it's okay too. It's not as difficult as I imagined. Murin Shan smiled slightly. This is her true feeling. That's fine. Safety comes first. If you feel like you can't hold on any longer, just give up. Don't force yourself. This height is no joke, Murengzu warned worriedly. Okay, sister, I know, Murengshan nodded obediently. Then, the three of them continued to climb up without any delay. Lin Fan stood at the bottom of the wall, paying attention to every move of Murengzu and the other two. He could clearly guarantee that if Murengzu and the other two had any problems, he would be able to rush over and catch them at the first time. With his current strength, it was not easy to catch someone at such a height to ensure that neither he nor the other party was injured, but such difficulty was not insurmountable. After a while, Murengzu and the other two came to the top of the wall. Finally climbed up, Murengshan sat on the top of the wall and let out a small sigh. Murengzu and Li Zihun smiled at each other. The three of them looked at Lin Fan together and greeted him at the same time. Lin Fan gave a thumbs up in response. Okay, it's time for us to go down. After sitting and resting for half a minute, Murengzu spoke. Yet, Murengshan and Li Zihun nodded. They certainly couldn't stay here forever. After all, the people behind them would continue to try to climb. The three of them climbed over the wall and walked down from the other side. It took almost a minute to successfully return to the ground. They walked back to Lin Fan, who glanced at them and asked with a smile, do you feel a little sore in your arms? Yes, Murengzu, Murengshan and Li Zihun answered in unison. They had just climbed for a few minutes. Logically, with their physical fitness, if they exercised for a few minutes, even if it was the kind of training specifically for the arms, they shouldn't feel their arms sore. But just after climbing for a few minutes, their arms felt sore. Lin Fan smiled and said, this shows that the training that Instructor Chiu arranged for us is indeed very effective. After repeated rock climbing every day, our strength will be greatly improved again after the training. In fact, in Lin Fan's opinion, after the second rock climbing training, his strength should be able to break through and become a fourth level evolver. Therefore, he can say with certainty that the benefits of such training are very great. I wonder what kind of training Instructor Chu took Andy to do, Murengzu asked curiously. Yet, I'm also very curious, and so is Instructor Chu. He didn't tell us. It would be better if he could reveal a little bit. Murengshan curled her lips. Haha, no matter what kind of training Instructor Chu took Andy to do, in short, it must be a training that has a great effect on Andy's strength improvement. Lin Fan smiled and said, all we have to do is to do our training well. Andy doesn't have to worry about anything. I still have great faith in Instructor Chu. That's right, Murengzu and the other two nodded. At least, for now, they all felt that Chu Hongsun was a good person, or a good instructor. When everyone had tried it and came to the second round of rock climbing, Lin Fan and the others also re-entered the training process. Chapter 435 True Feelings. They all watched the first round of training. There was no doubt that no one could surpass Lin Fan's performance. Among the second-level evolvers, only a few were able to slowly climb to the top of the wall in the first round, and the rest were unable to successfully climb to the top. As for the third-level evolvers, the situation was slightly better. Most of them were able to slowly climb up. Of course, there were a few who were indeed afraid of heights and had to overcome their fear of heights before they could complete the task of climbing to the top. Fortunately, no accidents occurred in this round of training, and no trainee fell from above. Such a result is quite good. While Lin Fan and others were conducting the second round of rock climbing training, on the other side, in a spacious room, a man and a dog were staying here. The man and the dog were Chu Hongsun and Andy, who came from the big square. Andy, because you are special, most of your training is weight training. I will put this 30 jin sandbag on your back first. Chu Hongsun looked down at Andy standing beside him, and after saying that, he put the sandbag he had just held in his hand on Andy's back. In the previous week of training, Andy ran around the square with a weighted sandbag. As Lin Fan and others did plank support, the weight of the sandbag on Andy's body increased every day. By the last day, the weight of the sandbag on Andy's body reached 35 jin. But because Andy had to increase the difficulty of training today, the weight of the sandbag was not set to 35 jin, but was reduced by 5 jin, and only 30 jin of sandbags were used. Hearing Chu Hongsun say this, Andy nodded his dog head and stood obediently to let Chu Hongsun put the sandbag on his back. After putting the sandbags in place, Chu Hongsun reached out and touched Andy's head, saying, do you see this runway in front? All you have to do is keep running back and forth along this runway, and stop to rest when you feel your body can't bear it anymore. In this spacious room, A more difficult runway was set up. This runway not only has uphills and so on, but also some uneven places, which will have a certain impact on running. This runway was originally used for training, but Andy couldn't participate in rock climbing training, so this runway could only be used for Andy's training. After Chu Hongsoon finished speaking, Andy nodded again. Okay, let's start now. Chu Hongsoon stood up and said, you run here by yourself, and stop to rest when you can't bear it anymore. If you have anything, you can also come to the big square to find me. You remember the way to the big square, right? Woof woof. Andy made 2 barks, which obviously meant to tell Chu Hongsoon that it remembered the way to the big square. Okay, just remember it. Chu Hongsoon smiled and said, go run. Andy didn't delay any longer. He took 4 steps, rushed into the track and ran. After seeing Andy finish a lap, Chu Hongsoon turned around and left without delaying any more. Soon, Chu Hongsoon returned to the wall of rock climbing. He didn't get too close, but stood 100 meters away. The reason why he stood so far away to watch was to make the students feel less stressed. Moreover, if he stood too close, some students might think that he would help them if they were in danger, which would not be conducive to the normal training of the students. I didn't expect Lin Fan to be able to climb to the top in 70 seconds. This speed is really fast. Chu Hongsoon stood and watched for a while, and soon saw Lin Fan climbing. He calculated the time for Lin Fan and found that Lin Fan's climbing speed was really fast. Then, he couldn't help but compare it with his own climbing speed at the beginning. If he remembered correctly, before he became a level 4 evolver, he climbed to the top of the wall in only 35 seconds. Although Lin Fan is now using twice as much time as he did, this is only the first day of training. As he becomes more and more proficient in the training, he believes that the time Lin Fan spends will soon decrease. By then, it is entirely possible that Lin Fan's fastest time will be faster than his. While Chu Hongsoon arranged for the students to train in rock climbing, Feng Kang arranged for the students to train under the waterfall. There was no other way. There was only one waterfall in the entire training base. The students in both camps could not train under the waterfall at the same time. They had to train one camp at a time. Therefore, Feng Kang took the lead in taking the students in his camp to train under the waterfall. After the first wave of training, Li Keishu walked in front of Qin Shangquang. Seeing Li Keishu, Qin Shangquang's face froze and said, Brother Keishu, there was no other way. Li Keishu is stronger than him. Even though Li Keishu was not as old as him, he had to call Li Keishu brother. Everyone was in the same camp, and he didn't want to make the relationship between him and Li Keishu awkward. Li Keishu nodded and said, Chang Kong, what did you feel about the fight with Lin Fan yesterday? Li Keishu has become more and more curious about Lin Fan's true strength. Although he can see that the fight between Lin Fan and Qin Shangquang was the reason why Lin Fan deliberately didn't want to defeat Qin Shangquang, he still wants to ask Qin Shangquang about his true feelings. Only in this way can he have a clear understanding of Lin Fan's specific strength. Brother Keishu, to be honest, Lin Fan's strength is really strong. When the instructor called me later, the instructor also said that Lin Fan's strength is probably very likely to reach the 4th level of evolution. It's just that Lin Fan chose to hide his weakness deliberately. Qin Shangquang told the truth. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Lin Fan and Li Keishu are not in the same camp. Sooner or later, there will be a confrontation between the two sides. Then he and Li Keishu stand in the same camp, and Lin Fan naturally becomes their common enemy. He told the truth of Feng Kang's analysis, just to tell Li Keishu not to dream of defeating Lin Fan alone. It would be better to join forces with him, so that the chances would be greater. As expected, Li Keishu's reaction was still not small after hearing what Qin Shangquang said. Li Keishu's brows were tightly locked together, and she murmured in disbelief, he is a level 4 evolver? You said that Instructor Feng thinks that there is a high probability that Lin Fan's strength has reached the level of a level 4 evolver. Yes, this is what Instructor Feng said himself, and he said that the probability is at least 90%. Qin Shangquang nodded very firmly. There was nothing to hide about this kind of thing, and he was not worried that it would be heard by Feng Kang, not to mention that Li Keishu was not the kind of person who would go to tell tales. Chapter 436 That's the truth. Instructor Feng said that Lin Fan has a 90% chance of becoming a level 4 evolver. Li Keishu looked at Qin Shangquang in surprise. Although he knew that Lin Fan's strength was stronger than Qin Shangquang's, he had never thought that Lin Fan already had the strength of a level 4 evolver. Moreover, Such a high probability guess came from Instructor Feng's mouth, which was really unbelievable. Yes, Instructor Feng told me personally, Qin Chang Kuang nodded. The 90% chance is a level 4 evolver, so what is the situation with the remaining 10% chance? Li Keishu asked thoughtfully. He believed that Qin Chang Kuang would not lie to him, so he also wanted to understand this question more clearly. In this way, he could have a clearer understanding of Lin Fan's strength. For the remaining 10%, Instructor Feng said that it is possible that Lin Fan has a special ability, Qin Chang Kuang said. Superpower. Li Keishu frowned slightly, thinking back to yesterday's situation, and then asked in confusion, when you two fought yesterday, if I saw it correctly, he didn't seem to show any superpowers, right? Not the kind of superpowers that can be seen with the naked eye, Qin Chang Kuang explained, because when I fought with him, I found that his body was very strong. When my fists collided, I felt like I was hitting a piece of iron, but he didn't feel any pain. What did you say? Li Keishu was shocked and asked, when you and his fists collided, did you feel like you were hitting a piece of iron? Yes, Brother Keishu, I really felt that way. My hands were all red afterwards, but I looked at his hands and his facial expressions, and there was not even a slight change, Qin Chang Kuang said. There is such a strange thing. Li Keishu's expression couldn't help but change. So, Instructor Feng guessed that Lin Fan might have superpowers, and the superpower might be able to make his body stronger, Qin Chang Kuang said. Then in your opinion, which possibility do you prefer? Li Keishu asked with a frown. The second one. Qin Chang Kuang's eyes fixed, and his tone was also solemn. I would rather believe that he has superpowers than believe that he has become a level 4 evolver now. Qin Chang Kuang did think so. Because, in his eyes, if Lin Fan is a level 4 evolver, it means that his growth potential is much greater than theirs. It will definitely not be an easy task to catch up with Lin Fan in the future. Brother Keishu, what do you think? Qin Chang Kuang asked back. Li Keishu did not answer Qin Chang Kuang's question immediately, but squinted his eyes and thought about it. After about half a minute, he said, I would rather it be the first one, that is, I am more inclined to believe that he is a level 4 evolver. Qin Chang Kuang looked at Li Keishu in surprise, not understanding why Li Keishu would prefer the first one. Brother Chu Shui, did I understand wrongly? If Lin Fan is now a level 4 evolver, doesn't that mean his growth potential is greater than ours? If we want to surpass him, it should be quite difficult, Qin Chang Kuang expressed his concerns. That's not how you understand it. Li Keishu glanced at Qin Chang Kuang, shook his head and said, he has become a 4th level evolver now, which is indeed stronger than us, but the evolver can also rely on energy crystals to quickly improve. With sufficient energy crystals in the future, we can still surpass him, but have you ever thought that superpowers are very uncomfortable? Superpowers can not only evolve and become stronger, but also exist in a way that cannot be interfered with by external forces. In other words, we can't use external forces to stimulate us and cause us to have superpowers. From the current point of view, it is very difficult for us to surpass him if he becomes a 4th level evolver ahead of time, but in the long run, his possession of such a terrible superpower is a greater threat. Perhaps you can imagine it yourself. When Instructor Feng talked about these two possibilities, his tone must have been much more solemn when talking about the possibility of superpowers. Li Keishu comes from a larger family and has received a better education than Qin Chang Kuang since childhood. He is also better than Qin Chang Kuang in thinking and analyzing problems. Therefore, when he heard Qin Chang Kuang talk about Lin Fan's situation and Feng Kant's words, he was able to make a more accurate analysis and judgment. After hearing what Li Keishu said, Qin Chang Kuang also felt as if he had suddenly realized something. He thought about it and said quickly, yes. Brother Keishu, you are right. I remember that when Instructor Feng mentioned these two possibilities, his tone was indeed more solemn when he mentioned the possibility of superpowers. Obviously, Instructor Feng also felt that Lin Fan would be more powerful after awakening such a terrible superpower. Yes, superpowers can also evolve. Now he must be in the early stage of superpowers, which can increase his physical strength so much, not to mention that when this superpower evolves to the middle and late stages in the future, it is impossible to imagine how much physical strength will increase at that time. Li Keishu said with a serious look, Lin Fan must be our biggest challenge and threat at the moment. If our camp wants to surpass Instructor Chu's camp, then unless we can surpass Lin Fan, we will definitely not be able to surpass Instructor Chu's camp. This is very tricky. Qin Chang Kuang's brows were also locked tightly together. He took a deep breath and said, If he is awakening a superpower now, then if we break through to become a level 4 evolver before him, we can take advantage of some opportunities. If he is already a level 4 evolver now, then we must break through to become a level 4 evolver as soon as possible. Yes, that's the truth. Lee Keshu nodded, then looked towards the waterfall and continued, I have a feeling that after this waterfall training, my strength should be able to break through to the level 4 evolver. Hearing this, Qin Shangquan couldn't help but be surprised. Then I really have to congratulate Brother Keshu in advance. Lee Keshu's strength and growth potential are stronger than his. It just so happens that they are in the same camp. If he and Lee Keshu have a good relationship, it will definitely be 100 benefits and no harm. So, at this time, it is still okay to flatter him. Anyway, saying a few compliments will not lose him anything. Lee Keshu naturally knew that Qin Shangquan wanted to please him, and he naturally didn't mind having a younger brother like Qin Shangquan. After all, Qin Shangquan's strength was still good, and it was only a matter of time before he was promoted to 4th level evolver. Chapter 437 Some details. Shangquan, you have to work harder. I estimate that you are not far from breaking through to become a level 4 evolver. Lee Keshu's eyes fell on Qin Shangquan, and he encouraged him generously. Among our camps, at present, you and I have the best chance of breaking through to become level 4 evolvers. As long as we both break through, our camp will have a great chance of winning when the two camps compete. When that time comes, you don't have to worry about Lin Fan. Just leave it to me. I also want to see how strong he is. The more Lee Keshu heard about Qin Shangquan's true feelings about Lin Fan, the more he looked forward to the fight between him and Lin Fan. Okay, Brother Keshu, I will work harder. Qin Shangquan nodded seriously. Since Lin Fan would be handed over to Lee Keshu to deal with, what else did he have to worry about? After all, he felt that among all the students, only Lee Keshu and Lin Fan were stronger than him, and the rest of the students were definitely weaker than him. In addition, I heard that there is a girl named Mu Hongling on the side of Instructor Chu, who is also quite capable. If you have a chance, ask someone to see if you can find out some information, Lee Keshu arranged. Since Qin Shangquan wants to take the initiative to please him and show his goodwill to him, he can't help but use Qin Shangquan. Apart from anything else, it is definitely right to let Qin Shangquan complete such a small matter as finding out information. Mu Hongling, Qin Shangquan was stunned for a moment, then thought about it and said, I have heard of this name, and it seems to be quite powerful. Anyway, don't worry, Brother Keshu, I will find out clearly. Well, that's fine. Lee Keshu nodded slightly and didn't say anything more. Qin Shangquan saw that Lee Keshu didn't speak, so he didn't speak to interrupt him. Now that he has decided to stand on the same front with Lee Keshu, then until his strength is not as strong as Lee Keshu, he should naturally let Lee Keshu be the boss. Lin Fan's speed has improved so quickly. He can already reach the summit in 55 seconds. Yeah, it's only the first day of training today, and he can reach the summit of 100 meters in 55 seconds. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, and someone else told me, I wouldn't have believed it. This is indeed terrifying. You have to see it with your own eyes to believe it. How on earth did he improve so quickly? I don't know about that. I estimate that in the end, he can reach the summit in 30 seconds. Reach the summit in 30 seconds? Impossible. This is incredibly difficult. Although the time is shortened quickly in the early stages, you have to know that the difficulty will increase exponentially as time goes on to the later stages to shorten the time by 1 second. Well, that's right. We can't take 30 seconds too lightly. When everyone saw Lin Fan appear at the top of the wall again and calculated the time for Lin Fan, they were completely stunned. They had never expected that Lin Fan's climbing speed could be so fast. The speed of improvement is really fast. Maybe in the end, there is a chance to break the record of reaching the top in 30 seconds. Chu Hongsun stood 100 meters away, his eyes also locked on Lin Fan. After seeing Lin Fan's performance clearly, he secretly said in his heart. Most of the students thought that Lin Fan could not reach the top in 30 seconds, but with his sharp eyes, he thought that Lin Fan had a great chance of doing it. However, this was just his guess. We still have to wait for the final results to know what Lin Fan can do. Lin Fan did not stay there for anything. After climbing over the wall, he quickly returned to the ground. Mu Hongling still went rock climbing with Lin Fan. After Lin Fan landed, she landed right after him. After that, it was Murin Zhu, Murin Shan and Li Zihun. After a day of training, the three of them also had a significant improvement in time. Although this improvement cannot be compared with Lin Fan's improvement, for them personally, this improvement is already quite significant. Brother Lin Fan, did we perform well? Shan returned to Lin Fan and asked with a smile. Of course, it's good to be able to do this, Lin Fan praised. At the same time, he looked at Zhu and Li Zihan and told them some details that need to be paid attention to in rock climbing. After listening, the three girls suddenly realized a lot. It turns out that there are such details in rock climbing, Shan sighed. Paying attention to these details can make us faster when exerting force, which will improve our rock climbing speed, Lin Fan said, and then changed his tone and said, of course, the same sentence, safety first. We can't just pursue speed without paying attention to safety issues. Zhu, Shan and Li Zihan all nodded seriously. For such a high wall, safety issues must be put first, otherwise if they really fall from it, it will be a big deal. Soon, the rest of the students in this round also finished their training. At this point, the sun was about to set over the hillside. Chu Hongxuan's eyes narrowed slightly, and he stepped out, and soon came to the front of all the students. Everyone, today's training ends here. Chu Hongxuan's eyes swept over everyone, and he said loudly, I have seen your performance. To be honest, you are all very good and brave, but you still need to continue to work hard. I'll look forward to seeing your better performance tomorrow. Okay, go back and have a good rest and adjust your state. You don't have to go to the big square to gather tomorrow, just come here to gather directly. Understand? Understood, everyone answered in unison. After hearing everyone's answer, Chu Hongxuan did not delay anything and turned around and left here. Let's go back too. Lin Fan tilted his head to look at Zhu, Shan and Li Zihan, and said with a faint smile. Of course, Andy also came here just now. After running with a sandbag on his back for a whole day, Andy was also a little tired, and he also needed to go back to rest and adjust his state. After returning to the accommodation area, Lin Fan and others went back to their rooms to rest. The next morning, after eating a little, they went directly to the rock climbing wall together. As expected, Chu Hongxuan was already waiting for their arrival here. Let's start the second day's training, Chu Hongxuan announced. After the trainees started training, he took Andy away and went to the spacious room. Andy, yesterday you had a 30 jin sandbag, and today I'm going to increase it by 1 jin, so today you have to run with a 31 jin sandbag on your back, Chu Hongxuan said. Andy nodded. Chu Hongxuan didn't delay and quickly put the 31 jin sandbag on Andy's back. Okay, start running, Chu Hongxuan said. Andy spread his legs and ran again. Chapter 438 30 and 40 seconds. After Andy started training, Chu Hongxuan did not stay here, but returned to the rock climbing wall. After all, Chu Hongxuan fully believed in Andy's self-discipline, and he needed to come back to keep an eye on the students. Of course, it's not that he didn't trust these students, but he had to record all kinds of data of the students, so that he would have a bottom line in his heart. What's more, when he went to the leader to report the results, he must have detailed results, otherwise what was there to report? The training time was not fast or slow. In a blink of an eye, another week passed. During this week, Lin Fan and others climbed the rock wall here every day. Although it was very hard, they all felt it was worth it. Because everyone could clearly feel the improvement of their body and strength. This was the result they wanted most. In any case, the purpose of their coming here was to become stronger. Today was the last day of rock climbing training, and everyone was looking forward to having a satisfactory result. And in fact, after the accumulation of the previous 6 days, they had done quite well, and only needed an excellent performance on the last day to end it. Lin Fan and his friends were still the second batch to go. They waited until the first group finished before they stepped out. Now, everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Fan. When Lin Fan finished yesterday, the time seemed to be 33 seconds. I wonder what he can achieve today. Yesterday it was 33 seconds. I estimate that today it should be 32 seconds or 31 seconds. Anyway, it will not reach 30 seconds. Yes, in this situation, it is too difficult to shorten the result by 1 second. I think it is amazing that he can do this. Of course, let's look forward to it. He will start climbing soon, and we will know the results soon. Everyone began to look forward to Lin Fan's results. They really wanted to see how many seconds it would take Lin Fan to successfully reach the top. Chu Hongxuan also locked his eyes on Lin Fan. According to Lin Fan's performance in the previous 6 days, he felt that Lin Fan's progress was naturally very fast, But he always had a feeling that Lin Fan was conservative in the previous 6 days. In other words, Lin Fan might have hidden something. If he really broke out in the future, the speed would definitely be faster and the time would definitely be shorter. This is just like when doing plank training in the first week. Lin Fan hid his skills for the first 6 days, and only showed his full strength on the last day. Thinking of this, Chu Hongsun looked at Lin Fan with a look of expectation. Huh? Standing in front of the wall, Lin Fan exhaled softly. Then, he did not delay any longer and quickly started climbing. In 10 seconds, he had climbed to a height of 40 meters. In 20 seconds, he had climbed to a height of 80 meters. In this way, the people who started climbing with him were instantly pulled far behind him. He was the only one standing at the front, and it was really impossible not to pay attention to him. In 25 seconds, he had climbed to a height of 90 meters. In 28 seconds, he had climbed to a height of 96 meters. In 30 seconds, he successfully climbed to the top of the wall. 30 seconds. Oh my god. It's really 30 seconds. He actually did it. Too fast, too fast. I didn't expect him to reach the top in 30 seconds. Compared to him, I am just a piece of trash. No, compared to him, we are not even a piece of trash, okay? The gap is simply too big, as big as a natural chasm that is difficult to cross. I don't know if anyone has ever achieved such a record before, climbing a 100-meter high wall without protective measures with this strength. We don't know about this. I guess only Instructor Chu can know it. When everyone saw Lin Fan appear at the top of the wall, the atmosphere was ignited. Everyone was discussing the name Lin Fan. 30 seconds, this little guy really did it, which means that he was still conservative in his performance in the past few days. Otherwise, according to the law of his improvement, he really couldn't do it in 30 seconds today. Chu Hongsun's eyes flashed with a faint smile. For Lin Fan's performance, even if he was a very picky person, he couldn't find any faults. In short, he was 100% sure that Lin Fan's training this week was the same as last week, with some hidden weaknesses and reservations. After all, his inference was correct. Only if Lin Fan had hidden his weaknesses in the past few days could he have reached 30 seconds today. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to improve by 3 seconds today. The discussion below did not cause any trouble to Lin Fan. The moment he reached the top of the wall, he knew that his behavior would cause heated discussions. However, he did not waste any time, climbed over the wall and came down quickly. He was more skilled in the process of coming down, and it only took him 10 seconds to return to the ground safely. At this time, Mu Hongling happened to appear at the top of the wall. In other words, it took Mu Hongling about 40 seconds to reach the top of the wall. Compared with yesterday, Mu Hongling also improved by 5 seconds, which was also a very good improvement. Mu Hongling did not continue to waste time there. After climbing over the wall, it took her another 18 seconds to return to the ground. The moment she returned to the ground, her eyes did not look at the wall anymore, but directly looked at Lin Fan, falling on Lin Fan. It only took him 30 seconds to reach the top, but it took me 40 seconds to reach the top. There is a difference of 10 seconds between us. I have tried my best to make up for this gap, Mu Hongling said to herself while looking at Lin Fan. She found that it was too difficult to catch up with Lin Fan, or even to surpass him. It was not an easy task at all. To put it seriously, maybe she would never have the chance to surpass Lin Fan in her life. Before, she had the idea of surpassing Lin Fan in her mind, but after the second week of training, she found that this idea was meaningless. Because, in front of Lin Fan, she really had no outstanding points and was always surpassed by Lin Fan. Not to mention surpassing him during training, now she already felt that she could not surpass Lin Fan. Mu Hongling herself did not realize that Lin Fan's figure had been engraved in the depths of her mind unconsciously. Whether she actively thought about it or not, Lin Fan's figure would occasionally emerge. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439, Ability Enhancement. After Lin Fan and Mu Hongling climbed over the wall, some third-level evolvers climbed over the wall one after another. Among them, Muran Zhu, Muran Shan and Li Zihan also had obvious improvements in their time. Although this improvement was equivalent to their own, it was indeed a very good result. After everyone climbed over the wall, Chu Hongsun walked in front of everyone. A satisfied smile appeared on his face, and said, "Everyone's performance is very good, and you have made great progress. I believe that your strength has been greatly improved. According to convention, after the second week of training, you will still be allowed to rest for a day, so, rest tomorrow, and start the third week of training the day after tomorrow morning. Remember, the day after tomorrow morning, gather at the old position in the big square. Don't be late. Latecomers will definitely be punished." "Yes," everyone answered in unison. Chu Hongsun didn't delay anything and turned to leave here. "We will go back too." Lin Fan immediately looked at Murengzhu, Murengshan, Li Zihan and Andy. Okay, the three of them didn't hear the joy in Lin Fan's tone. Because Lin Fan already felt that the opportunity for his breakthrough had arrived. In other words, his strength would soon be able to enter the level of a fourth level evolver. Such good news is undoubtedly exciting. Therefore, he must seize this opportunity, otherwise once the opportunity is missed, he will not know when to wait for the next time. Maybe a few days, maybe more than 10 days, the time is uncertain. The four people and the dog returned to the dormitory building, and Lin Fan said, "Then you have a good rest, and we will go out for a walk tomorrow." "Okay, brother Lin Fan, you should also rest early," Murengshan said. Murengzhu and Li Zihan also greeted Lin Fan, and then they each returned to their rooms. "Andy, you have a good rest." Lin Fan glanced at Andy and said with a smile. Andy nodded his dog head, but he didn't delay anything. He walked to the bed and lay down to rest. It ran with a 40-pound sandbag on its back today. For it, the physical and mental consumption was very large, and it could not recover without a good rest. After Andy rested, Lin Fan returned to the bed and sat cross-legged. During the previous training, he had already felt the opportunity for a breakthrough, and this opportunity still exists. In fact, when this opportunity comes, you don't need to do anything yourself, you just need to calm down quietly. Because, breakthroughs are a matter of course. After Lin Fan sat down, he clenched his fists and felt the power that kept rolling in his body. This power was gradually rising and getting stronger. Not long after, this power became even stronger, and a muffled sound seemed to resound from Lin Fan's body. As this muffled sound spread, Lin Fan only felt that his whole person was sublimated. Level 4 Evolver. Finally stepped from the ranks of Level 3 Evolvers to the ranks of Level 4 Evolvers. I have to say that the power of Level 4 Evolvers is much stronger than that of Level 3 Evolvers. Lin Fan continued to clench his fists and sighed with a smile on his face. Now that he has personally stepped into this level, he can better understand how much the supernatural power played a role in killing Dongfang Ling. It can be said without hesitation that if he did not have superpowers, when he fought with Dongfang Ling only needed to hide him twice to end his life. Moreover, this was when he had the defensive attribute. If he did not have the defensive attribute, Dongfang Ling would have hit him with a full strength punch, especially in the vital parts, and it would have been a one-punch kill. The power of a level 4 evolver was so terrifying. Check, Lin Fan said in his heart. Species, human level, level 3 strength, 16 speed, 16 reaction, 16 defense, 14 superpowers, telekinesis, elementary improving. When his own data information appeared in front of him, a gleam of light flashed in Lin Fan's eyes. The increase in strength, speed, reaction, defense and other data was beyond doubt. After all, as a whole, he had entered the level of a level 4 evolver, and these data had to be increased. What surprised him was that the information in the column of superpowers, which previously only showed elementary at the end, now had the words improving added to it. It was obvious that this was telling him that his ability was also evolving. According to his speculation, once the ability evolved to the intermediate level, the range he could control would be larger, which was definitely a huge improvement for him. At the primary level, the control range was 10 meters. At the intermediate level, would it be 30 meters? Lin Fan's eyes showed a fiery color. Although the range of 30 meters did not sound very large, it would actually be 3 times more exciting than the current 10-meter range when it was controlled. Especially when the ability evolved to the advanced level, the range would be even wider, and then it would be truly free to control. However, for this kind of thing, it was enough to just imagine it in your mind to satisfy your craving. The specific situation would still have to wait until the ability evolved to complete before knowing it. In short, it would be the best thing to break through to the 4th level of evolution. Lin Fan took 2 deep breaths, and after his mood calmed down, he did not waste any more time and lay down on the bed to rest. At the same time, on the 9th floor, in Li Keshu's room, he also sat cross-legged on the bed waiting for a breakthrough. His situation was similar to Lin Fan's. After 2 weeks of training, he also had an opportunity to break through. If he had mastered the opportunity, there would be no problem in breaking through. Time passed by minute. 2 hours had passed, but Li Keshu's body had not moved at all. He had been sitting cross-legged on the bed without moving. 10 minutes later, Li Keshu's tightly closed eyes suddenly opened, and he laughed and said, "Level 4 Evolver, I have also become a Level 4 Evolver." Yes, at that moment, his strength had successfully broken through, and he had also entered the ranks of Level 4 Evolvers from Level 3 Evolvers. Lin Fan, even if you are a Level 4 Evolver, I have also become a Level 4 Evolver. There is no difference between us in strength. In terms of speed and reaction, I don't think you can compare with me. You just wait to lose to me in the competition between the two camps. Li Keshu clenched his fists tightly together, and a burning flame had already burned in his heart. He was eager to start a battle with Lin Fan right now. He wanted to see how difficult this Lin Fan was. Chapter 440 Reasonable Suggestions. Li Keshu didn't know that Lin Fan had also reached the 4th level of evolution, and had broken through to become a 4th level evolutionist a little earlier than him. If he knew, his expression would probably be quite wonderful. However, from the moment he entered this training base and saw Lin Fan, he did regard Lin Fan as a real opponent, and never relaxed or underestimated him. Because there are not many people who can make him feel that way, and Lin Fan is definitely one of them. He has always believed that Lin Fan is not a simple person, especially after seeing the fight between Lin Fan and Qin Chang Kong, and learning more about Lin Fan from Qin Chang Kong. He is more convinced that Lin Fan is his only opponent in this training base. Now his short-term goal is nothing else but to defeat Lin Fan. The next morning, just like the day of rest last week, Chu Hongxuan went to Dong Xianzhuo again to report on the second week of training. Before Chu Hongxuan went to report, Feng Kang also went to report. It's just that in the second week, the training done by their two camps was different. Chu Hongxuan's side was doing rock climbing training, and Feng Kang's side was doing waterfall training. Therefore, in this report, there was no clear comparison between the two sides. When they arrived at Dong Xianzhuo's office, as expected, Chu Hongxuan saw Dong Xianzhuo here. "Hongxuan, come, sit down and talk." Dong Xianzhuo looked up and saw Chu Hongxuan walking into the office, and couldn't help but greeted him with a smile. "Okay, Brother Dong." Chu Hongxuan nodded and walked over to sit down on the sofa. Then, Chu Hongxuan didn't waste any time and directly reported the second week of training. After hearing Chu Hongxuan's words, Dong Xianzhuo showed a look of surprise on his face and said, "The little guy named Lin Fan performed so well again. He was able to climb to the top in 30 seconds. This was a bit beyond my expectations." Dong Xianzhuo was indeed surprised. Although he had not personally experienced rock climbing training, he could fully imagine that at the level of a 3rd level evolver, it was definitely not an easy task to climb to the top of a 100-meter wall in 30 seconds. Even if it were replaced by many people who had just entered the 4th level evolver level, they might not be able to do it. Such a difficult thing was done by Lin Fan. Even he had to admit that Lin Fan was not simple. Thinking of this, Dong Xianzhuo's eyes condensed slightly, and asked, "Is his strength sure not to break through to the level of the 4th level evolver, Brother Dong?" "It's definitely not." Chu Hongxuan nodded seriously. "Well, then wait until his strength reaches the level of the 4th level evolver and bring him to see me," Dong Xianzhuo said. Okay, Chu Hongxuan nodded repeatedly. He believed that if Lin Fan met Dong Xianzhuo would definitely give Lin Fan a lot of suggestions, and these suggestions would definitely play a good role in Lin Fan's strength improvement. After all, the reason why he and Feng Kang's strength could be improved so quickly was that Dong Xianzhuo made a lot of suggestions. After chatting with Dong Xianzhuo for a while, Chu Hongxuan did not delay here any longer. As the leader, Dong Xianzhuo had to deal with many things every day, and his time was quite precious. Returning to the training base, Chu Hongxuan thought about it and decided to go find Lin Fan. For an outstanding talent like Lin Fan, he felt that he had the need and business to talk to Lin Fan every week to exchange training experiences. At this time, Lin Fan and others had already woken up from their sleep. They walked out of the room and were about to eat something when they saw Chu Hongxuan walking towards them. Instructor Chu. Lin Fan glanced at Chu Hongsun and greeted him first. Instructor Chu, Murungzu, Muringshan, Li Zihan and others also greeted him. Chu Hongsun smiled and nodded, and asked, "Where are you going?" Hearing Chu Hongsun's question, before Lin Fan could speak, Muringshan whispered beside him, "Instructor Chu, we feel that it is so boring to stay in the base on this day of rest. Can you let us go out and play? We promise to stay near the base and not go too far. We also promise to be back before the evening and not delay the training the next day. If we delay, then the base will adopt the policy of expelling us." Muringshan really felt that there was nothing fun in the base. On the day of rest after training last week, they had already toured the entire base. Today is a day of rest. Do we have to tour here again? That's really too boring. Hearing Muringshan say this, Chu Hongsun thought about it seriously and felt that Muringshan was right. Student Muringshan, you are right. Since we are letting you relax and rest, we should give you some freedom. After all, you are not children anymore, Chu Hongsun said. There are people patrolling and observing around this base at any time. There is no danger. You can go out and play. However, I need to talk to Instructor Feng about this issue before I can make a decision. I also need to report to the commander. After all, such a big thing cannot be decided by me alone. Okay, thank you Instructor Chu. Muringshan hurriedly thanked him. She just said that casually, and she didn't expect Chu Hongsun to pay attention or agree at all. She didn't expect Chu Hongsun to answer like this after hearing it. In this way, at least it shows that there is hope, not no hope at all. You are welcome. You can put forward any good suggestions in this place. As long as the suggestions are reasonable and we think they are feasible after discussion, we will generally follow your suggestions, Chu Hongsun said. Then when will Instructor Chu go to Instructor Feng and the chief to discuss this? Muringshan asked curiously. She was too depressed and wanted to go out to play. Lin Fan, Murungzu and Li Zihan shook their heads and smiled helplessly at Muringshan's urgency. They could only sigh that even though this girl was very capable, she was still a child who had not grown up, and her mentality was still that of a child. However, there was nothing wrong with this. It was definitely right to keep a young mentality. No hurry. Let me talk to Lin Fan first. After the chat, I will go to Instructor Feng, and then I will go to the chief to discuss this, Chu Hongsun said with a smile. Instructor Chu, do you have something to talk to me about? Lin Fan was slightly startled. He didn't expect Chu Hongsun to come to him. It's not about anything. I just want to chat with you casually. Chu Hongsun smiled faintly and said, come to my office. Chapter 441, Strong Aura. Then you go eat first. Instructor Chu and I will go to the office. Hearing Chu Hongsun say this, Lin Fan looked at Murungzu, Muringshan and Li Zihan and said, okay, Murungzu, Muringshan and Li Zihan naturally had no objection. They nodded and agreed, and then walked towards the place where they could eat. After the three of them left, Lin Fan followed Chu Hongsun to the office. After entering the office, Chu Hongsun asked Lin Fan to sit down, and the two sat on the sofa. Chu Hongsun looked at Lin Fan and smiled faintly. Lin Fan, tell me, how do you feel about the training in the past 2 weeks? Instructor Chu, to be honest, for me personally, the training in the past 2 weeks has improved a lot. Before coming here, I never thought that there would be such a good effect. This is completely beyond my expectations, Lin Fan replied. This answer undoubtedly made Chu Hongsun very satisfied. He nodded and said, that's good, that's good. This shows that our training is meaningful. At this point, he changed the subject and said, by the way, I went to the chief this morning and reported to him about our second week of training. Then, when the chief heard about your results, do you know what he said to me? I don't know. Lin Fan shook his head. It would be really strange if he could guess the answer to this question. Chu Hongsun smiled and said, the chief said that when your strength breaks through to the 4th level of evolution, let me take you to find him. Lin Fan was stunned. Is it such a coincidence? He said weakly, Instructor Chu, then you can take me to see the chief now. Chu Hongsun didn't understand what Lin Fan meant at this moment, and thought that Lin Fan didn't hear him clearly, so he said again, Lin Fan, the chief said that you should wait until your strength breaks through to the 4th level of the evolver, not now. Yes, Instructor Chu, I know you mean after you reach the 4th level of the evolver, so I said you can take me there now, Lin Fan said. Now it was Chu Hongsun's turn to be stunned. After about 3 seconds, he suddenly reacted and said, you mean, Your strength has broken through to the 4th level of the Evolver. Yes, Lin Fan nodded seriously. When did it happen? Chu Hongxun was shocked. Last night, Lin Fan said. Last night, Chu Hongxun was stunned again. Bang! Seeing this, Lin Fan clenched his palm into a fist and punched the air, and immediately there was a sound of breaking wind. Judging from the state of this sound of breaking wind, how could a level 5 evolver like Chu Hongxun not realize that this was something that only a level 4 evolver could do? Ha, it's really the strength of a level 4 evolver. Great, this is really great. Chu Hongxun laughed happily and said, at first I thought you would need to train for a while to reach the strength of a level 4 evolver, but I didn't expect you to reach it so quickly. At the beginning, Chu Hongxun did have a guess about when Lin Fan would break through to level 4 evolver. In his guess, it should take a month from the time Lin Fan started training to make a breakthrough, but he never expected that Lin Fan would shorten the time to break through to half of his guess. This can really be said to be an unexpected surprise. Since your strength has reached the level of a level 4 evolver, you should follow me to see the chief now. We will set off immediately and will be there soon. It just so happens that the chief will not go out today, Chu Hongxun said hurriedly. He was still quite clear about some of Dong Xianzhuo's arrangements, and knew that Dong Xianzhuo would not go out to do things today, but would only stay in the office. Okay, Instructor Chu, Lin Fan nodded, then thought of another question and said, by the way, Instructor Chu, didn't you say before that you would go to Instructor Fan to discuss it, and then go to the commander with Instructor Fan to apply for conditions to go out and play around the base? How about you go to Instructor Fan first, and then we can go to the commander after you find Instructor Fan? Lin Fan knew that the little girl Murin Shan must be bored in the base and wanted to go out and play, so he also took this matter to heart. Since both of them had to go to the commander, it would be better to do both things at the same time, so as not to waste more time doing them one by one. Haha, there's no need to go find Lao Feng. If you go with Lao Feng, wouldn't it expose the fact that you've improved to the 4th level of the Evolver? Chu Hongxun laughed and said, this secret can be kept secret for the time being. Try not to let Lao Feng know if you can. It won't be too late to reveal it when the two camps compete. As for going out to play around the base, I think the chief will agree. After all, your strength has broken through to the 4th level of the Evolver to meet the first station. The chief will definitely be in a good mood. You can also mention this idea by the way. As long as the chief agrees, I will come back to inform Lao Feng. In this way, the students on Lao Feng's side can also go out to play, and it won't affect anything. Chu Hongxun still wanted Lin Fan to continue to hide his strength. He wanted Lin Fan to hold back his true strength until the camp competition, so that it would have a stunning effect. And once their camp wins Fen Kan's camp in the competition, they will get very rich rewards. This kind of reward was personally distributed by the chief, so you don't need to guess that the reward will be very good. Okay, Chu Hongxun said so Lin Fan naturally wouldn't have any different opinions, and nodded again in response. Then let's not delay here, let's go find the chief now, Chu Hongxun said. After the voice fell, he took Lin Fan out of the office, got in his car, and drove towards the place where Dong Xianzhuo lived. Soon, they arrived at Dong Xianzhuo's residence and knocked on the door of Dong Xianzhuo's office again. Come in, Dong Xianzhuo's voice came from the room. Chu Hongxun stretched out his hand to open the door and walked in with Lin Fan. Hongxun, why are you back again? Dong Xianzhuo was a little surprised to see that the person who came was Chu Hongxun. Brother Dong, I brought someone to see you, Chu Hongxun said and looked at Lin Fan. Dong Xianzhuo's eyes also fell on Lin Fan, looking him up and down. What a strong aura. When Dong Xianzhuo looked at Lin Fan also looked at Dong Xianzhuo. The first time he saw Dong Xianzhuo, he could directly feel an extremely strong aura from Dong Xianzhuo. This aura, it can be said without hesitation, is the strongest he has ever seen so far, no one else. Chapter 442 Other Top Geniuses. The most important thing is that Dong Xianzhuo's eyes fell on Lin Fan, making Lin Fan feel that Dong Xianzhuo saw through him, as if he had no secrets in front of Dong Xianzhuo. Fortunately, Dong Xianzhuo could not know the secret of the ring. After all, the ring did not exist in his body, but was worn on his finger. How could Dong Xianzhuo guess that a ring could read all kinds of data and information? That would be too mythical. Not bad, not bad. It's true that heroes emerge from youth. Dong Xianzhuo looked at Lin Fan for about 10 seconds, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. He could also feel an unusual temperament from Lin Fan, and this unusual temperament could make him have a general judgment and understanding of Lin Fan. "Hello, Chief." Lin Fan stood up, stood at attention, and saluted with his palm. The moment the voice fell, he secretly said in his heart, "Read, species, human level 6 strength, 25 speed, 25 reaction, 25 superpower, strength amplification, intermediate." Dong Xianzhuo's various data information appeared clearly in Lin Fan's sight. Seeing this data information, Lin Fan was also shocked, especially when he saw Dong Xianzhuo's superpower. He was even more surprised. Strength amplification, if understood literally, it is not difficult to understand as an increase in strength data. If the primary level is an increase of 1 point, then the intermediate level may be an increase of 2 points. Don't underestimate this kind of increased data. You must know that when you just have 26 strength, once this superpower is used, the strength value is increased by 2 points, which means that it has reached a value of 28. And 28 is the strength value, which is completely the strength value of a level 7 evolver. The level of the evolver, the further back, the difference of 1 point will be very obvious. Therefore, we have to admit that Dong Xianzhuo is a real strong man. Lin Fan could imagine that if Dong Xianzhuo attacked him, no matter if he had supernatural powers or defensive attributes, it would be useless in front of Dong Xianzhuo. Dong Xianzhuo could easily kill him with one move. Of course, Dong Xianzhuo admired him now and would not take any measures against him. "Sit down, let's sit down and talk." Dong Xianzhuo glanced at Lin Fan and said with a smile. After that, he took the lead in sitting on the sofa. Chu Hongxun and Lin Fan also sat down. "Brother Dong, you just told me that you would bring Lin Fan to see me when his strength breaks through to the level of a 4th level evolver." I went back to the base and told Lin Fan about this. As a result, it happened that his strength broke through to the level of a 4th level evolver last night, Chu Hongxun said, then looked at Lin Fan and motioned Lin Fan to show it. Lin Fan could naturally understand what Chu Hongxun meant in his eyes. When Chu Hongxun's voice fell, he clenched his fist and punched in the air, and a sound of breaking through the air was still heard. Hearing this sound of breaking through the air, Dong Xianzhuo smiled slightly and said, "It is indeed the power of a 4th level evolver. Yes, I saw that he has reached the level of a 4th level evolver, so I brought him to you right away." Chu Hongxun nodded. "Lin Fan, how old are you this year?" Dong Xianzhuo looked at Lin Fan and asked with a smile. "Chief, I am 20 years old this year, and I will soon be 21 years old," Lin Fan replied. "Not yet 21 years old." Dong Xianzhuo was even more satisfied. "You know, he is already so old. Although he is now the strongest person in the entire country, his age is here, and his future growth is destined to be restricted. And Lin Fan has become a 4th level evolver before he is 21 years old, which is enough to show that Lin Fan's talent and growth potential are quite terrifying. The most important thing is that Lin Fan also has such a magical ability to control objects through the air, which is really admirable. Hongxun, this time your camp has indeed produced an amazing genius." Dong Xianzhuo looked at Chu Hongxun and praised him. "Brother Dong, you are too kind. It is because of your decision to establish a training base that we have the opportunity to recruit talents from all over the country. Otherwise, Lin Fan would not have come to my camp." Chu Hongxun shook his head and said. "Fate, it's all fate," Dong Xianzhuo said. "Yes, some things may be destined in the dark," Chu Hongxun nodded and said. Dong Xianzhuo's eyes quickly shifted to Lin Fan again, encouraging him. "Lin Fan, with your talent and growth potential, as long as you continue to develop, you can become a level 6 evolver sooner or later, or even a level 7 evolver, a level 8 evolver, or even a level 9 evolver." Dong Xianzhuo really felt that Lin Fan had such growth potential. This was not because he deliberately praised Lin Fan. After all, Lin Fan's young age had a great advantage in this area. He had grown to the strength of a level 4 evolver before he was 21 years old. Who knows how far Lin Fan can grow in a few decades. Therefore, there was nothing wrong with what Dong Xianzhuo said. "Thank you for your compliment, Commander," Lin Fan responded modestly, then thought of another question, looked at Dong Xianzhuo and asked, "By the way, Commander, I have a question for you." "What's the question?" "Feel free to ask," Dong Xianzhuo nodded. "That is, what is the current level of the strongest young talents abroad?" Lin Fan asked. Lin Fan's sights have never been limited to the country. He wants to compare with the talents of the world, and he also wants to surpass the world's top talents. If he wants to do something, he must be the first. Hearing Lin Fan's question, Dong Xianzhuo not only did not think that Lin Fan was too ambitious, but felt that Lin Fan was a young man with a lot of ideas. Because young people should move forward courageously, don't consider anything, just rush forward. As far as I know, among foreign young talents under 30, the strongest should be at the level of level 5 evolvers. As for young talents under 25, the strongest are at the level of level 4 evolvers, but they may be at the peak of level 4 evolvers, just one step away from level 5 evolvers, Dong Xianzhuo said. After the doomsday, due to the lack of communication equipment, it was not so convenient for him to contact other countries. If he wanted to contact them, he had to take a helicopter. Therefore, during this period, he did not go to too many countries, and did not have a very good understanding of the specific situation, but he was sure that Lin Fan's current age and strength would definitely not be bad in the world. Chapter 443 Joint Application. After keeping the data Dong Xianzhuo said in his mind, Lin Fan also had a general understanding. According to what Dong Xianzhuo said, he was indeed not bad compared to the geniuses in the world. It was impossible for him to be ranked. Dong Xianzhuo glanced at Lin Fan and added, "By the way, Lin Fan, do you know why you were summoned to this place for training? To improve our strength?" Lin Fan said tentatively. To improve your strength is definitely the most important aspect, but there is another aspect. In half a year, geniuses from all over the world will gather to compete. That is a good time to win glory for the country and a good time to compete with geniuses from all over the world. Dong Xianzhuo took a deep breath and said in a serious tone, "If you can stand out on that competition, it is not an exaggeration to say that you are famous all over the world." Dong Xianzhuo's identity destined him to consider issues from the perspective of the country. Therefore, he naturally hoped that the geniuses of his country could win glory for the country without reservation. From Lin Fan's point of view, there is nothing wrong with winning glory for the country, but what he wants more is to surpass the rest of the geniuses in the world. As long as you surpass those other geniuses, wouldn't it be a natural thing to become famous all over the world? Lin Fan nodded and said, "Don't worry, Commander. I will go all out and try to surpass the geniuses from other countries." Okay. I believe in you, Dong Xianzhuo said 3 OKs in a row, which shows that he is really full of hope for Lin Fan and believes that Lin Fan has a chance to do it. "Then you must train and improve well after you go back," Dong Xianzhuo urged. "I will," Lin Fan nodded again. "By the way, Brother Dong, I have something to apply for you," Chu Hongxun said. "What is it?" Dong Xianzhuo asked. "It's," Chu Hongxun was about to say. However, Lin Fan took over and said, "Instructor Chu, why don't you let me say it?" "Okay, Lin Fan, you can say it. After all, this is also the idea of your students." Chu Hongxun nodded, and sang a duet with Lin Fan. Lin Fan looked at Dong Xianzhuo and said, "Commander, it's like this. We think that on the day of rest after training every week, can we go out to play around the base? Because the area of the base is so large, we had already visited the rest day last week, and there was really nothing fun to do. To improve training, I personally think that there should be a balance between work and rest. Only by truly resting and relaxing can we welcome the new week of training in a better state. Moreover, there are people patrolling around the base, so there is no need to worry about safety issues, and we won't run far. This is a joint application from our students. I wonder if you can approve it, Commander." Lin Fan's current status and position, in Dong Xianzhuo's impression, is almost the strongest among the students. Then Lin Fan made this application on behalf of many students, and Dong Xianzhuo would definitely take it seriously. It was not unexpected for Lin Fan and Chu Hongxun. After hearing what Lin Fan said, Chu Hongxun did take it seriously. He thought about it for about 5 or 6 seconds, and then he said, "Okay, approved. You don't have to worry about safety when playing around the base. As long as you return to the base on time to rest and don't affect the new week's training, it's fine." "Okay. Thank you, Chief. We will definitely return to the base on time," Lin Fan nodded. After talking about this matter, Lin Fan and Chu Hongxun did not stay any longer. They said goodbye to Dong Xianzhuo, walked out of the office together, and quickly returned to the car. "Lin Fan, from Brother Dong's attitude towards you, I can see that Brother Dong absolutely values you. You just need to work hard to improve in the future. Brother Dong is a very generous person. Before you go to participate in the Global Genius competition, he will definitely give you something good, Chu Hongsoon said while driving. He and Dong Xianshou have known each other for many years and know very well what kind of person Dong Xianshou is. Instructor Chu, don't worry, I will work hard, and I will definitely shine in the Global Genius competition, Lin Fan said confidently. Hearing Lin Fan's confidence, Chu Hongsoon was also very happy. He nodded and said, okay, I believe you can do it. Soon, Chu Hongsoon drove Lin Fan back to the training base. I will go to Lao Feng to tell him that you can go to the base to play, and then call you to the big square to announce the news, Chu Hongsoon said. Okay, Lin Fan responded, got out of the car, and walked back to the accommodation area. He guessed that Murenzhu, Murengshan and Li Zihan would stay in the accommodation area after eating and wait for him to come back. Not to his surprise, he saw Murenzhu, Murengshan and Li Zihan when he returned to the accommodation area. Seeing Lin Fan coming back, Murengshan ignited her gossipy heart and hurriedly asked, Brother Lin Fan, how is it? What did Instructor Chu want you to go today? This question was obviously also of curiosity to Murenzhu and Li Zihan. They both looked at Lin Fan with curious eyes, waiting for Lin Fan's answer. Lin Fan glanced at the three of them, waved his hand, and said, let's go back to the room and talk. As he said that, Lin Fan walked back to the room first. Murenzhu, Murengshan, and Li Zihan followed Lin Fan into the room without any delay. Some students who happened to be outside saw this scene and were so envious that their eyes widened. But since Lin Fan and Qin Changquan fought and remained undefeated that day, their impression of Lin Fan has also changed drastically. They know that Lin Fan is someone they can't afford to provoke. In this case, if they rush to provoke Lin Fan, it would be pure death. Lin Fan didn't care about these. At this time, the four of them were already in the room, and Andy was lying on the ground to rest obediently. Lin Fan glanced at Andy, then he turned his gaze back to Murenzhu, Murengshan and Li Zihan, and said, my strength has broken through to the 4th level of the Evolver. Lin Fan had just said this, and before he could continue, he was interrupted by Murengshan excitedly. Brother Lin Fan, you said that your strength has broken through to the 4th level of the Evolver. Yes, I broke through last night. I wanted to tell you when I was eating this morning, but I was called away by Instructor Chu before I went to eat, Lin Fan said. He did plan to tell the three of them the news when he was eating, but Chu Hongsoon happened to come at the right time and took him away. Chapter 444 Obtain Consent. Brother Lin Fan, this is great. Your strength has reached the level of a 4th level Evolver. We can walk around the training base with ease. I don't believe that anyone will dare to mess with us in the future. We will beat them 1 by 1 or 2 by 2. Murengshan waved her fist and said happily. Hearing Murengshan say this, Lin Fan, Murenzhu, and Li Zihan looked at each other and smiled. There was nothing they could do. They all thought Murengshan was too lively and cute. Murengshan quickly continued to ask, Brother Lin Fan, did Instructor Chu call you over just to ask you if your strength has broken through to the 4th level of the Evolver? No, Instructor Chu called me over because he originally wanted to tell me that when my strength breaks through to the 4th level of the Evolver, the chief will meet me in person. But he never thought that my strength has already broken through to the 4th level of the Evolver. Lin Fan smiled faintly and said, when he knew the news, he was also very surprised, and then, without any delay, he took me to see the chief. Did he take you to see the chief? Murengshan, Murenzhu and Li Zihan were all filled with surprise on their faces. They didn't expect that Lin Fan had already met the chief. Lin Fan nodded and said, yes, after Instructor Chu knew that I had reached the 4th level of evolution, he took me to see the leader. Then I learned from the leader that there would be a competition among geniuses from all over the world in half a year. If you can stand out on this competition, then there is no doubt that you will be famous all over the world. Brother Lin Fan, then aren't you destined to be famous all over the world? Murengshan blinked, chuckled, and asked with a smile. Lin Fan glanced at her and asked, why do you say that? Murengshan gestured and said, because I believe you will definitely stand out. Hearing Murengshan say this, Murenzhu and Li Zihan also nodded. After all, in the eyes of the three of them, Lin Fan's strength, talent, and growth potential are all unmatched by others. You can't say it so absolutely. This is to compete with geniuses from all over the world. No one knows what kind of strength geniuses from other countries have, Lin Fan said modestly. He did not tell Murenzhu, Murengshan, and Li Zihan about the strength of geniuses from other countries. That way, Murenzhu, Murengshan, and Li Zihan could work a little harder. After all, he didn't want the four of them to participate in such a global talent competition alone. It would be best if Murenzhu and the other two could come along. There is no doubt that in such a competition, everyone's perspectives could be changed and improved, which is also a very important thing for Murenzhu and the other two. Seeing that Murenshan was about to say something more on this issue, Lin Fan changed the subject and said, I have another good news to tell you. What good news? Murenzhu, Murenshan, and Li Zihan all looked at Lin Fan, their eyes full of curiosity. The good news is that when Instructor Chu and I went to see the commander, we mentioned in passing that we wanted to go out and play around the base, and then we applied to the commander. After listening to us, the commander agreed. That is to say, from now on, we can go out and play around the base during our rest days, but we just have to come back on time at night. If we don't come back on time and are found out, we will definitely be punished. This punishment may be direct expulsion and not allowing us to continue to stay in this place to participate in training. Lin Fan finished speaking without pause. As soon as Lin Fan finished speaking, Murenshan clapped her hands happily and said, finally, we can go out and play. Anyway, we won't go too far, we just don't want to stay in this base. Murenzhu nodded and said, yes, it's boring to stay in this base every day. If we can go out and walk around, we can also relieve our mood. Li Zihan also nodded and said, I thought the leader might not agree to a request before, but I didn't expect the leader to be so easy to talk to. Lin Fan didn't tell the three of them, and it wasn't a question of whether Dong Xianzhuo was easy to talk to. It was just that he and Instructor Chu went to make such an application together, and coupled with the ability he showed, Dong Xianzhuo felt that there was no need to refuse such a small request. In any case, Dong Xianzhuo still needed Lin Fan to improve his strength so that he could be in the best condition to welcome the Global Genius competition in half a year. As long as Lin Fan can achieve good results in the Global Genius competition, the reputation of this country will soar directly. At that time, it is very likely to attract some people from other countries to join. Because in this era of doomsday, there is no such thing as a sense of belonging to one's hometown. Whatever place can make one's strength improve faster, that place will be chosen first. Brother Lin Fan, can we go out and play now? Murenshan glanced at Lin Fan and asked anxiously. It can be seen that she really wants to go out and play. Lin Fan nodded and said, not now, we have to wait a little longer. Murenshan asked in confusion, why do we have to wait a little longer? Lin Fan smiled helplessly and said, because, when I went to see the chief just now, only Instructor Chu and I went together, and Instructor Feng didn't know about it at all. Now that the chief has agreed to such a request, at least Instructor Feng should be told first, then Instructor Feng will notify the students in his camp. It is impossible that only our people can go out and play, while their people cannot go out and play. Hearing this, Murenshan suddenly realized and nodded, saying, then we can only wait a little longer. On the other side, Chu Hongxun went to find Feng Kang. The two were staying in the office and sitting on the sofa together. Feng Kang looked at Chu Hongxun and asked with a smile, Old Chu, do you have anything to talk to me about? Chu Hongxun smiled slightly and said, why? Can't I look for you if there is nothing? Feng Kang chuckled and said, of course you can't look for me, don't you know that I'm very busy every day? Chu Hongxun could naturally hear that Feng Kang was joking. The two of them had known each other for so many years, and they knew each other's personality very well. Chu Hongxun didn't care about him. He changed the subject and said, I came to tell you that Brother Dong said that our students can go out and play on the day of rest, and they don't have to stay in the base all the time. Go out and play? Feng Kang frowned slightly, looked at Chu Hongxun with some confusion, and continued to ask, what do you mean by going out to play? Chu Hongxun said directly, just play around the base. Can't go too far, and must return to the base at night. If they don't return, they will be punished. This kind of punishment can even be to expel them and not let them continue to train in the base. Is this really Brother Dong's arrangement? Feng Kang asked with some confusion. Chapter 445, Just a Defeated General. Old Feng, this is the arrangement that Brother Dong personally said. Do you think that even if I want to joke with you, I would joke about this kind of thing? Chu Hongxun glared at Feng Kang unhappily. Feng Kang then realized that, yes, this was Brother Dong's arrangement. Even if Chu Hongxun wanted to joke with him, he would never involve Dong Xianzhuo. Because that would be too much of an offense. It would be fine if it was not known, but if it was known, then I really didn't know how to face Dong Xianzhuo. So, at this time, Feng Kang was 100% sure that this was not a joke from Chu Hongxun. In this case, it can only mean that this arrangement is true. It seems that Dong Xianzhuo did agree to let these students play around the base. Feng Kang looked at Chu Hongxun with some curiosity, and asked slowly, "Old Chu, how did you know that we also want to apply for this? Before you came to me, I was just about to talk to you about this. I also thought that we should first reach a consensus on our side, and then go to Brother Dong together." Feng Kang really thought so. After all, there were also students on his side who came to him to report this matter, and they felt that it was too boring to stay in the base on this day of rest. He thought that after he and Chu Hongxun discussed how to give Dong Xianzhuo a higher chance of passing the application, they would go to Dong Xianzhuo together to talk about this matter. Unexpectedly, Chu Hongxun had already settled this matter before he discussed it with him. This was indeed beyond his expectations. Chu Hongxun laughed and said, "The students will tell me anything." When I heard them say this, I thought I could apply for it. After all, there is nothing fun staying in this base every day. They want to change their mood, adjust their state, and greet the new training with a better mental outlook. They really need a better combination of work and rest and proper relaxation. Hearing what Chu Hongxun said, Feng Kang nodded and said, "Yes, the students really need to relax. Let's not waste time here. Let's gather the students together and tell them the news. I believe they will be very happy after hearing it." It is true that Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang are in a competitive relationship on both sides, but when it comes to the training of students, the two of them will always stand on the same front. They all want the students in their hands to have better development and faster improvement. Chu Hongxun nodded again and said, "Okay, then we will go and gather the students in our respective camps together, tell them the news, and let them decide for themselves whether to go out to play around the base. Anyway, the decision is in their hands. They decide whether to go out to play or not." "Yes, that's what I mean. Let's go and tell them now," Feng Kang said. Feng Kang and Chu Hongxun did not waste any more time. They walked out of the office together and gathered their own students. Soon, all the students were summoned to the big square. Chu Hongxun stood in front of everyone, and after scanning everyone, he said loudly, "Dear students, I call you here now for nothing else, just to tell you a good news." "Good news?" Chu Hongxun's words immediately made the atmosphere on the scene lively, and many students looked at each other. They began to guess what the good news Chu Hongxun was talking about. After all, Chu Hongxun was their instructor. Being able to let Chu Hongxun say such information was enough to show that the news was indeed very good. Seeing that everyone was very curious, Chu Hongxun didn't keep it a secret and said again in a loud voice, "I have already applied to the chief, and he agreed to allow you to go out and play on your days off, and you don't have to stay in the base all the time, but there is a requirement, that is, you must return to the base before 10 o'clock in the evening. If you don't return, we have the right to expel you, and then you will no longer be able to participate in the training of the base." Did you hear me clearly? The moment Chu Hongxun's voice fell, the atmosphere on the scene was burning again. "What? We can actually go out and play? Did I hear it right?" "Nonsense. Of course you didn't hear it wrong, we all heard it. This news is really great. Yes. Finally we can go out and play, not to mention playing past 10 o'clock, even if we are asked to come back before 8 o'clock, there is no problem. Yes, everyone should not go too far, as long as they play around the base. They can return to the base before 10 o'clock anyway. This opportunity is hard to get. We all have to perform well and not come back after the stipulated time, or else they might cancel it for us all." Many students discussed excitedly. Only Lin Fan, Muren Zhu, Muren Shan and Li Zihan were relatively calm. After all, they knew the news before the rest of the students, so naturally they couldn't be that excited. "Okay, I've said everything I should say, and you can arrange your time freely from now on." Chu Hongxun glanced at the many students again, and after giving them instructions, he did not continue to waste time here, turned around and left the big square, and soon disappeared from the students' sight. After Chu Hongxun left, many students also took action instantly. They made an appointment in groups and began to walk out of the base. They looked like they didn't want to stay in the base for a second longer, and they wanted to grow wings and fly out. After many students had left, Lin Fan looked at Muren Zhu, Muren Shan and Li Zihun. He smiled and said, "Let's go. Since everyone is out, let's go out and have some fun." Lin Fan said this. Muren Zhu, Muren Shan and Li Zihan naturally had no objection. The three girls nodded at the same time, And then Lin Fan took them and Andy out together. When the students on Chu Hongxuan's side walked out, Feng Kangde also announced the news to the students. Li Keishu, Qin Changquang and others also walked towards the gate. Coincidentally, when Li Keishu, Qin Changquang and others walked over, they happened to meet Lin Fan and Andy who were about to go out, and the two sides met each other. Qin Changquang looked at Lin Fan, and a hint of anger suddenly appeared in his eyes. As the saying goes, enemies are particularly jealous when they meet. Qin Changquang did not let go of what happened that day. No matter what, he went to find trouble with Lin Fan that day to save face for his brother Qin Changqing. But obviously, not only did he not save face, but he also got Qin Changqing and others beaten up again. The most important thing is that he and Lin Fan fought like this, but he still couldn't defeat Lin Fan. So, in the eyes of other people, his behavior is purely a funny behavior. He lost a lot of face. But the instructor has already said that if there is another competition, he must report it first. When he saw Lin Fan now, even though he was very angry and wanted to beat Lin Fan, he knew that this was impossible. He could only stare at Lin Fan hatefully to express his unhappy emotions. Lin Fan didn't care about Qin Changquang's eyes at all. Because in Lin Fan's view, Qin Changquang was just his defeated general. How could a defeated general be qualified for him to treat with his eyes? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446 Looking for Mu Hongling. Lin Fan glanced at Qin Changquang, and then looked at Li Keishu next to him. Li Keishu's eyes met Lin Fan's. Lin Fan was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Li Keishu's aura would become stronger. He didn't delay and immediately used the ring to read Li Keishu's data. Species, human level, level 4 strength. 16 speed. 16 reaction. 16 power. None. Seeing Li Keishu's data, Lin Fan reacted immediately. It turned out that Li Keishu's strength had also broken through to the level of a 4th level evolver. No wonder he could feel a stronger aura from Li Keishu than before. It turned out to be this reason. Of course, in Li Keishu's opinion, Lin Fan's aura was also stronger than before. He secretly guessed in his heart, could it be that Lin Fan really had not reached the level of a 4th level evolver before, but only had special powers, and now he has broken through to the level of a 4th level evolver, so he feels even stronger? If this is true, then Lin Fan is indeed a very, very strong opponent. After all, Lin Fan's superpowers had already troubled him, and now he had broken through to the realm of a 4th level evolver, which was really a headache for him. Lin Fan didn't know what Li Keishu was thinking. He only knew that Li Keishu was his most challenging opponent in this training base. If he didn't use superpowers, the battle between him and Li Keishu would be very exciting. He began to look forward to the time when the two camps would compete. At that time, he must defeat Li Keishu without using superpowers. The stare between the two sides did not last too long, and soon, Lin Fan and others walked out. After going out, Lin Fan and others walked to the left of the base gate, while Li Keishu and others only walked to the right of the base gate. Changquang, come with me. Li Keishu looked at Qin Changquang and said slowly. Okay, brother Keishu, Qin Changquang replied, then followed Li Keishu and walked to the side with Li Keishu. From that time on, Qin Changquang had already decided to be Li Keishu's younger brother for a while. When he was stronger than Li Keishu, it would not be too late to exchange identities with Li Keishu. After all, he was not a fool and could not let Li Keishu manipulate him. When they were alone, Li Keishu's eyes condensed slightly, looked at Qin Changquang and asked, did you feel anything different when you saw Lin Fan just now? Qin Changquang was stunned for a moment, shook his head and said, I don't know if this feeling is right, but I always feel that he seems to have become stronger. I hope my feeling is wrong. No, your feeling is not wrong, because I had the same feeling when I saw him, that is, he has indeed become stronger than before. I guess his strength did not reach the level of a 4th level evolver before, but now he must have become a 4th level evolver, otherwise he would not give me such a feeling. Li Keishu's tone gradually became a little solemn. It was obvious that Lin Fan's strength improvement would still cause him a certain amount of pressure. It was impossible to say that there was no impact. Brother Keishu, do you mean that Lin Fan didn't have the strength of a 4th level evolver before, but relied purely on that special ability to fight me? Qin Chang Kong asked with a serious face. This question is very important to him. Because, if Lin Fan didn't have the strength of a 4th level evolver, but could still fight him like that, it would be enough to prove that what Fen Kang said was true. Lin Fan had a superpower that could make his body stronger. If this superpower was with Lin Fan, it would add more trouble to them. They would rather Lin Fan had the strength of a 4th level evolver before, which would be relatively easier. Yes, I feel that he didn't break through to the level of a 4th level evolver before, but only broke through now. His whole aura has become stronger than before. Anyway, he is definitely not a good person, Li Keishu said so. As he got to know Lin Fan better, Li Keishu felt that Lin Fan was a difficult opponent. Although he also needed such an opponent to stimulate him to become stronger, if Lin Fan improved too fast, he would undoubtedly be left far behind. How could he catch up and surpass him at that time? Brother Keishu, since this guy is so strong, how should we deal with him in the competition between the two camps? Qin Chang Kong asked with curiosity. Don't worry, isn't it time for the competition between the two camps? As long as it hasn't come yet, we have a chance in time. We just have to work harder in the next training. If we don't work harder, it will be impossible for us to become stronger before the competition between the two camps, Li Keishu reminded. Qin Chang Kong's strength is also at the peak of the 3rd level evolver. As long as Qin Chang Kong works hard, he should be able to upgrade to a 4th level evolver before the competition between the two camps. In Li Keishu's view, as long as the competition between the Chinese camps has not yet arrived, there will be opportunities for everything. Moreover, he is also full of confidence in his own strength. As long as his strength reaches the level of a 4th level evolver, he feels that he will always have a chance to defeat Lin Fan. He didn't say anything more about this topic. Soon he changed the subject and continued to look at Qin Chang Kong and asked, by the way, I asked you to find out more about Mu Hongling before. How did you find out, Brother Keishu? I asked someone to find out about Mu Hongling's strength. It is indeed very impressive. If I really want to describe it, it should be said that in Instructor Chu's camp, Mu Hongling's strength can definitely be ranked in the top 3, Qin Chang Kong replied. It is impossible for him not to do what Li Keishu arranged. If he fails, he will not leave any good impression on Li Keishu. Ranked in the top 3? That does show that Mu Hongling's strength is not simple, Li Keishu nodded. Although he didn't know the overall situation in Chu Hongsun's camp, he thought it should be not much different from the situation in their camp. What does Brother Keishu mean? Qin Chang Kong asked curiously. I think Mu Hongling is a very good person. I want to make friends with her, but the two camps are a bit confrontational. I don't know how to approach her, Li Keishu pondered. Brother Keishu, if you want to be friends with Mu Hongling, it's relatively simple. After all, Mu Hongling will come out to play today, and you can just go find her directly then, Qin Chang Kong said slowly. Okay, then you ask someone to help me find out where Mu Hongling is. After finding out clearly, I will go to find her directly. Such a friend can't be missed, Li Keishu nodded and said. Okay, Brother Keishu, I'll ask someone to find out now. You wait for my news. It should be able to find out soon, Qin Chang Kong said confidently. After that, he turned around and left here and began to inquire. Qin Chang Kong didn't spend too much time there. After about 10 minutes, he returned here and looked at Li Keishu and said, Brother Keishu, I found out that Mu Hongling is in a forest on the right side of the base. There is a tree that looks pretty good. There are quite a few people watching there. Okay, in that case, let's go and take a look now, Li Keishu said. After the voice fell, Li Keishu and Qin Chang Kong did not delay here any longer. The two walked side by side towards the forest that Qin Chang Kong mentioned. Chapter 447 Rejected. The arrival of Li Keishu and Qin Chang Kong undoubtedly attracted the attention of many people. After all, at this stage, the names of Li Keishu and Qin Chang Kong have gradually spread in the base, and everyone knows that they are not easy to mess with. Mu Hongling naturally noticed Li Keishu and Qin Chang Kong, but her eyes only stayed on them for a moment and then retracted, as if Li Keishu and Qin Chang Kong could not attract her excessive attention. Whether before or after the outbreak of the Doomsday, Mu Hongling has seen many outstanding young talents. It is indeed difficult to attract her attention if she is not interested in someone. Even if Li Keishu and Qin Chang Kong are very powerful, the premise is that she is interested in them. If she is not interested, then even if Li Keishu and Qin Chang Kong perform a golden hook in front of her, she will not want to take a second look. Qin Shangquang and Li Keishu were slightly surprised by Mu Hongling's cold eyes. They did not expect that the simultaneous appearance of the two of them could not attract Mu Hongling's attention. However, the more this happened, the more Li Keishu felt that Mu Hongling was a woman with personality. The more he faced such a woman, the more he should be patient. It was impossible for Mu Hongling to come to him to curry favor with him as soon as he appeared. In that case, he would not have any interest in Mu Hongling. Li Keishu's personality was indeed like this. He had always been disdainful of women who took the initiative to throw themselves into his arms. He preferred women he tried hard to pursue, so that he could stimulate his desire to conquer. Originally, Li Keishu wanted to start with one of Murin Shan or Li Zihan, but he knew very well that these three women were inseparable from Lin Fan every day. It was too difficult to start with these three women. Lin Fan was not a vegetarian. Before the big match between the two camps, he did not want to become a life-and-death enemy with Lin Fan because of these things. Therefore, he temporarily set his sights on Mu Hongling. First, Mu Hongling's strength was indeed very good. Second, Mu Hongling's appearance and figure were not worse than Murinzu and the other two. Li Keishu and Qin Shangquang also looked at the strange tree in the middle of the venue, but the tree obviously did not interest them. After a brief look, they looked away. Soon, Qin Shangquang walked to the side. She knew that Li Keishu was going to discuss and date Mu Hongling next, so he naturally could not stay here as a light bulb. That would be too tactless. When Qin Shangquang left, he also dispersed the people who were watching around. There was only one reason for the dispersion, that is, if Li Keishu stayed here, then this piece of land belonged to Li Keishu, and they could not step into it without permission. Although it sounded a bit overbearing, the rest of the people did not dare to express any objections. They all knew how strong Li Keishu and Qin Shangquang were. If they offended these two people, they would not have a good time in the future. Mu Hongling, Li Keishu walked up to Mu Hongling and greeted her. "What's the matter?" Mu Hongling glanced at Li Keishu. "Can I be your friend?" Li Keishu asked directly. "Be friends?" A hint of doubt emerged in Mu Hongling's eyes. "Yes, I just want to be friends with you." Li Keishu nodded seriously. "What if I don't agree?" Mu Hongling asked back. Li Keishu was a little surprised by Mu Hongling's answer. However, he was not a person who did not have gentlemanly manners. Since Mu Hongling said so, he could only follow Mu Hongling's answer and said, "Of course it's okay to not agree. I just want to be friends with you. I don't have any other ideas." "Okay, now I know your thoughts, but I really don't want to be friends with you, so that's it." Mu Hongling still answered very straightforwardly. Li Keishu showed a touch of embarrassment on his face. This was the first time he was rejected by a girl like this. However, Mu Hongling ignored his embarrassment and walked away from here after speaking, without staying for a moment. Looking at Mu Hongling's back as she left, Li Keishu felt a bitter taste in his heart. After Mu Hongling left, Qin Shangquang also came over. He didn't hear the conversation between Li Keishu and Mu Hongling just now, so he couldn't help asking, "Brother Keishu, what's going on? Your conversation ended too quickly, didn't it?" Qin Shangquang thought that Li Keishu and Mu Hongling would talk for at least half an hour or even an hour, but he didn't expect it to end in less than 3 minutes. This made him curious about what happened between Li Keishu and Mu Hongling. "Rejected?" Li Keishu shook her head and said. "Rejected?" Qin Shangquang's face showed a touch of surprise, as if he didn't expect Li Keishu to be rejected. "Yes, the rejection was very straightforward and decisive, without any dragging," Li Keishu said. In this matter, he felt that there was no shame. Being rejected was being rejected, and there was nothing to be denied. "Brother Keishu, she is too ungrateful, isn't she? You gave her so much face and took the initiative to make friends with her, but she actually rejected you directly," Qin Shangquang said a little indignantly. Li Keishu waved his hand and said, "It's normal. If she agreed right away, it means she's not a good person. On the contrary, the more she refuses, the more interested I am. So what should we do now?" Qin Shangquang asked. "What should we do?" Li Keishu glanced at him and asked back. "Mu Hongling, is it over?" Qin Shangquang asked again. "Let's do it this way for now. We'll talk about other things later. Anyway, everyone is still in this training base. There are plenty of opportunities. If it doesn't work this time, then next time," Li Keishu said. "Okay, Brother Keishu," Qin Shangquang nodded. He would do his best to do things for Li Keishu and hang out with Li Keishu for a while. After Mu Hongling left this area, she didn't go anywhere else. but went to find Lin Fan and the others. Compared with Li Keishu's proactive behavior, she admired Lin Fan more. At least, Lin Fan didn't come over to chat with her or anything like that. Sometimes women are like this. The more proactive you are, the less interested they are. The more indifferent you are to them, the more interested they are. After all, they would doubt in their hearts whether it was because they were not attractive enough that this man had no interest in them. At this moment, Lin Fan, Murungzu, Murangshan, Li Zihan and Andy were resting under a few trees. Although they were null evolvers and had enhanced heat tolerance, the temperature was still 40 degrees Celsius that day, and girls were afraid of getting tanned, so they chose this place to sit and rest. While she here, Li Zihan was the first to notice the appearance of Mu Hongling, and his dark eyebrows could not help but slightly frown. Hearing Li Zihan's words, Lin Fan, Murungzu and Murangshan also looked towards Li Zihan, and indeed saw Li Zihan walking towards them. Facing the gazes of Lin Fan and the other three, Mu Hongling felt a little embarrassed, but still stepped forward. "Hello," Mu Hongling greeted them politely and said, "I don't mean anything else. We all belong to the same camp. I want to make friends with you and exchange experiences on improving our strength." Yes, Mu Hongling came here to make friends. She didn't want to be a lone ranger anymore and wanted to integrate into the team of Lin Fan and the other four. Hearing Mu Hongling say this, Lin Fan was a little surprised. He didn't expect Mu Hongling to take the initiative to come over and show her goodwill. Murungzu, Murangshan and Li Zihan were also a little surprised. After all, in their eyes, Mu Hongling had always been a very cold woman. Chapter 448 Waterfall Training. But Mu Hongling has already said so. If Lin Fan still doesn't respond, it would be too embarrassing. No matter what, everyone is a student in Chu Hongsun's camp. In order for the camp to win in the competition, everyone should unite. Mu Hongling took the initiative to come to make friends, which means that Mu Hongling also mustered up the courage, and it is impossible not to give such face. If this kind of face is not given, it will be equivalent to setting Mu Hongling on the opposite side in the future. This nut will always exist in Mu Hongling's heart, causing Mu Hongling to have a grudge. Although Lin Fan is not afraid of Mu Hongling, this is obviously unnecessary. If it can be resolved well, it should be resolved well. There is no need for such a contradiction to exist between the two parties. Welcome to be friends with us. From today on, we are all good friends. We can discuss any problems we encounter, especially the issue of improving strength. If we discuss it, we may come to a good conclusion. Lin Fan smiled and said with a smile. Mu Hongling's talent and strength are not simple. I think it won't take long for her to be promoted to 4th level evolver. The most important thing is that Mu Hongling, Murungzu and the other two are all girls, and it is sometimes easier for girls to communicate with each other. If Mu Hongling is in the team, it is estimated that she can also play a stimulating and leading role for Murungzu and the other two. After all, the comparison mentality among girls is also very strong, and Murungzu and the other two will not want to see Mu Hongling leave them far behind. They will work harder to improve their strength to catch up with Mu Hongling, or even surpass Mu Hongling. If this stimulating effect is used well, it will definitely be beneficial to Murungzu and the other two. Similarly, for Mu Hongling, she does not want to be caught up and surpassed by Murungzu and the other two, so she will naturally work harder to improve her own strength. In this way, they have completely formed a virtual circle with each other. Lin Fan has already expressed his opinion, so Murungzu, Murangshan and Li Zihan will naturally have no other opinions. Although they did not have a very good impression of Mu Hongling before, they did not have a very bad impression of Mu Hongling. After Lin Fan expressed his welcome, Murungzu, Murangshan and Li Zihan also expressed their welcome to Mu Hongling. It is always better to have one more friend than one more enemy. Moreover, they have witnessed Mu Hongling's strength in the past 2 weeks of training. Having someone of Mu Hongling's strength join their team will have obvious benefits for their team's overall strength. Fortunately, Li Keishu doesn't know the situation here now. If he knew, he would probably be so angry that he would vomit blood on the spot. After all, he took the initiative to find Mu Hongling to make friends, but was rejected by Mu Hongling. The rejection was so straightforward. And just after rejecting him, Mu Hongling took the initiative to find Lin Fan and others to make friends, which was clearly a slap in his face. Lin Fan and others did not go anywhere else, and they didn't know what Li Keishu was thinking. They continued to stay here and chat for a while. When it was almost dark, they ended the chat. Lin Fan looked up at the sky, stood up and said, Okay, it's getting late, we should go back. Hearing this, Muran Zhu, Muran Shan, Li Zihan and Mu Hongling all stood up from the ground. Although they wanted to play for a while longer before returning to the base had time regulations after all, and they could not violate the base's time regulations. If they violated the time regulations, they would most likely face severe punishments, and then they would be expelled, and then they would have no chance to come back for training. When Lin Fan and the other four returned to the base with Andy, the other students also began to return one after another. On both sides of the base gate, Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang stood on both sides with a roster respectively. Obviously, the two instructors were also registering these students who went out to play, to see which ones were still playing outside and which ones had returned to the base. This kind of registration is still very necessary. Once they find any situation, they can go directly to seek help, etc. It must be said that everyone cherished this opportunity to go out and play, and nothing happened outside that required the instructors to come forward to solve. Moreover, everyone was very punctual and returned to the base before 10 o'clock, which left a good impression on Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang. After resting in bed for a night, when the next day came, everyone got up from bed and rushed to their respective gathering places. Chu Hongsun stood in front of Lin Fan and others, glanced at them, and then said loudly, "Everyone, your performance yesterday was very good. Everyone returned to the base on time before 10 o'clock. By the way, I can tell you that if one of you failed to return to the base on time last night, not only that person will be punished, but all of you will also be punished. As for all of you being punished, that means you will be disqualified from going out to play again, and you can only stay in the base. So, you all have to remember, you can go out to play, but you must return to the base before 10 o'clock. Remember, remember." Everyone answered in unison, and at the same time secretly rejoiced in their hearts. Fortunately, they all returned on time yesterday. If they did not return on time and caused everyone to be unable to go out again, they would really become sinners. Very good, Chu Hongsun nodded with satisfaction and said again, "In the first week, we did plank support training, in the second week, we did rock climbing wall training, and in the third week, we still have to change to a new training method. Now, all of you follow me, I will take you to the new training location." After the voice fell, Chu Hongsun did not delay for a moment, walked in front, and led Lin Fan and others to the direction of the waterfall. In fact, when Chu Hongsun led everyone in this direction, Lin Fan and others had already guessed that their third week of training must be the waterfall. However, no matter what kind of training, they can bear it, because such training can indeed make their strength improve quickly. Not long after, Chu Hongsun led Lin Fan and others to the waterfall. Hualala. The sound of water on the waterfall rang incessantly. Everyone has been here for half a month, and they are also very clear that there is a waterfall here. Their eyes are all locked on the waterfall, watching the water flow down from the waterfall, and a faint expectation rises in their hearts. "Do you see this waterfall?" Chu Hongsun glanced at everyone. Then pointed at the bottom of the waterfall and said, "Over there, there is an area where people can stand. Your third week of training will be completed here. In other words, you need to stand in those standing areas and let the water of the waterfall wash over you." The moment Chu Hongsun finished speaking, there was undoubtedly a burst of discussion all around. "What? This is too difficult, isn't it? We have to stand there and let the waterfall wash over us? At first, I thought we were going to swim under the waterfall and occasionally go over to wash over it. How can we stand here? With such a strong impact force of the water flow, people will be washed away by the water if they go over there, right?" "Yes, the impact force of the water flow there is really too strong. After all, it is such a high waterfall. I don't think it is possible for us to stand up. If we can't stand up, then the training effect will be lost, right?" I don't know what the instructor is thinking. This question has gone beyond the scope of my outline. Forget it, let's take a look first. Since the instructor has arranged it this way, there must be a purpose for the instructor. In short, all we have to do is obey the arrangement. Everyone expressed their opinions and views. Lin Fan was not surprised by the content of these voices, because when they first saw it, they also had such doubts, but they quickly came out of their doubts. "Quiet, listen to me." Chu Hongsun raised his hand and signaled everyone not to speak. Hearing this, everyone shut their mouths and stopped making any sound. They all knew that what Chu Hongsun was going to say next must be related to their training at the waterfall. Chapter 449 Go and Try. The training intensity of the waterfall is very high. As you discussed, If you were asked to stand on it like this, you would not be able to stand at all, and you would be hit by the water flow. Chu Hongsun glanced at everyone, clapped his hands, and continued, so, in order to enable you to stand firmly under the waterfall to receive training at the beginning, we will first add weight to your body. Only when the weight is increased can you stand firmly. As Chu Hongsun said this and the applause fell, on the other side, Big Bear, Little Rabbit and others came out again with sandbags. Each of the sandbags here weighs 40 kilograms. Now you will tie the sandbags to your body. With a 40 kilograms of weight increase, I think you can stand firmly under the waterfall. Even if you can't stand steadily at the beginning, you will definitely be able to stand steadily after trying a few times, Chu Hongsun said loudly. Yes, everyone answered in unison without any objection. Big Bear, Little Rabbit and others took out the sandbags and put them on the ground. They looked at Chu Hongsun and saluted. Chu Hongsun nodded and said, just leave it here, go and do your own things. Yes, instructor, Dakshin, Xiaotu and others answered in unison, and then turned and left without delay. They did have their own things to do, and it was impossible for them to stay here and watch Lin Fan and others train. However, at the moment of turning around and leaving, Dakshin couldn't help but look at Lin Fan. Among these students, although Dakshin didn't have much contact with him, if he wanted to say who left the most profound impression on him, it was undoubtedly Lin Fan. What Dakshin didn't expect was that in just half a month, Lin Fan's strength had already broken through to the 4th level of evolution. It was almost easy to defeat him. When Dakshin looked at Lin Fan, Xiaotu also looked at Murongsa and the other two. Like Dakshin, Xiaotu was most impressed by Lin Fan and the others. If they were not allowed to inquire about the news of the students casually, she and Dakshin would like to pay attention to Lin Fan and the others every day. Of course, it was fortunate that they did not come to pay attention. If they had been paying attention, seeing Lin Fan and the others progress so quickly, it would have been a bit of a blow to themselves. After Big Bear, Little Rabbit and the others left, Chu Hongsun ordered, now, tie these sandbags to your bodies. Yes, everyone nodded in response, and without wasting any time, they took up the sandbags and tied them to their bodies. As for Andy, he ran to Chu Hongsun, and Chu Hongsun personally took a sandbag and tied it to Andy's back. Andy also had to accept the training under the waterfall, but this would undoubtedly be more difficult for Andy, because Andy's own weight could not be compared with that of humans. But the greater the difficulty, the more challenging it is. Andy is also willing to accept such a challenge. It also wants to see how long it can last under the waterfall. Are you all ready? Chu Hongsun asked loudly as he swept his eyes over everyone again. Ready, everyone answered in unison. Okay, now that we are ready, let's not waste time. Let's go in from here. Do you see that position? There is a small path that leads to the back of the waterfall. Then you can walk forward and stand in the area below the waterfall, Chu Hongsun said. Everyone looked in the direction Chu Hongsun said, and indeed saw that there was a small path behind the waterfall that led to the bottom of the waterfall. Let's go. What is coming will come. I also want to try how strong the impact of this waterfall is. Yes, we will know after we go up and try. It's useless for us to continue to guess here. I'll go first, and you guys follow behind. Everyone talked one after another, and soon someone walked towards the waterfall and began to walk along the path. With the first person taking the lead, the people behind naturally didn't waste any time and followed one after another. Brother Lin Fan, are we going there too? Murong Shan glanced at the waterfall, then retracted her gaze and looked at Lin Fan and asked. Lin Fan nodded and said, well, let's go and give it a try. With Lin Fan's agreement, Murong Zhu, Murong Shan, Li Zihan and Mu Hongling followed Lin Fan to the waterfall. Of course, Andy followed them. Andy could stand with them to endure such training. Crash! When Lin Fan and his friends walked over, someone had already walked under the waterfall and was hit by the water flow above the waterfall. The huge impact force immediately made that person washed into the waterfall water flow. Crash! Another figure was washed down. As they approached, 10 figures were washed down in a row. There was no way. Even though they were already carrying 40 kilograms of sandbags, the impact of the waterfall water flow was indeed very strong. It was not so easy to resist. They had to adapt for a while. However, it is worth mentioning that the 10 figures who were washed down just now were all the strength of the second-level evolvers, and none of them reached the strength of the third-level evolvers. Therefore, it was understandable that they were washed down. Now a person with the strength of a level 3 evolver went up. As expected, he did not fall down immediately, but stood there for a long time. Just when he wanted to show off to his companions that he had held on, he slipped and was also washed down. Of course, even if he did not slip, he could not have held on for long, because the impact of the waterfall was indeed not small, and not every level 3 evolver could withstand it. After a while, Lin Fan, Murengzhu, Murengshan, Li Zihan, Mu Hongling and Andy also came to the bottom of the waterfall. "Brother Lin Fan, I'll go up first." Murengshan tilted her head to look at Lin Fan, and after saying that, she greeted Murengzhu, Li Zihan and Mu Hongling, and then without hesitation, she walked forward. Crash! The water of the waterfall still slapped her mercilessly, but she gritted her teeth and held on, and was not directly knocked to the ground by the water of the waterfall. Seeing this scene, Murengzhu, Li Zihan and Mu Hongling also had a rough idea in their hearts. Of course, Mu Hongling's strength is much stronger than the three of them, and she is only one step away from becoming a level 4 evolver. Therefore, Mu Hongling knew that she would not be washed down if she stood up. It was just a matter of how long she could stand there. "Sister Zhu, let's go up and try it too." After Li Zihan's beautiful eyes stayed on Murengshan for a while, she retracted her gaze and looked at Murengzhu, smiling and said, "Okay." Murengzhu did not have any different opinions on Li Zihan's proposal, and nodded in agreement. Then, the two of them did not waste any time, and walked forward together, standing on the left and right sides of Murengshan respectively. Splash! Splash! The water hit their bodies, bringing them a certain amount of pain, but they all endured the pain and persisted. Then, Andy also walked up on all four legs. Andy is indeed a creature that has evolved and mutated. His strength is improving faster than Murengzhu, Murengshan and Li Zihan. Lin Fan has read Andy's data with a ring. Now Andy's data has reached 15. Although it has just reached 15, it can also show that Andy's strength will soon reach the level of a 4th level evolver. Perhaps, before the competition between the two camps begins, Andy will have the strength of a 4th level evolver. Mu Hongling's strength will undoubtedly break through. In this way, it is equivalent to having 3 4th level evolvers in their team. Such a lineup is not to be underestimated. Li Keishu and Qin Changquang may not have dreamed that Andy, who has become an object of their neglect, will become their nightmare. But this is not their fault. After all, many people just think that Andy's reaching the 3rd level is incredible, and they never thought that Andy's strength can reach the 4th level. Chapter 450, Removing the Sandbags. After Andy went up, Mu Hongling didn't waste any more time. She glanced at Lin Fan and also stepped forward and stood under the impact of the water flow. As expected, Mu Hongling's performance was much better. When the water flow hit her, her body didn't tremble too much. You know, when Murengzhu, Murengshan and Li Zihan walked up before, the water flow hit them and made their bodies tremble several times. This kind of trembling is firstly the pain caused by the impact of the water flow, and secondly, the body is not standing firmly and is prone to fall. Mu Hongling's strength is much stronger than them. If this happens when Mu Hongling stands up, it means that Mu Hongling's strength is about the same as theirs, which is obviously impossible. After Mu Hongling stood up, Lin Fan exhaled slightly and didn't delay anything. However, at the moment when he was about to stand up, he suddenly felt that he was now a 4th level evolver, and it seemed that the training effect would not be achieved much if he carried a sandbag weighing 40 kilograms. In this case, it would be better to take off the sandbag, so that the training effect can be maximized. Thinking of this, Lin Fan did not delay and took off the sandbag directly. Although this behavior would attract onlookers, it was not important. It was better to attract onlookers than to have a low training effect. He came here to improve his training, not for anything else. Whatever method can maximize the improvement of strength, then he would naturally use that method. Seeing Lin Fan take off the sandbag, everyone instantly lost their composure. Lin Fan actually took off the sandbag. Does he want to stand on it just like that? This is too difficult. The impact force of the water flow of the waterfall is so strong. It seems that it will not be easy for him to withstand the impact of the water flow just by standing on it. Yes, the impact force of the water flow is quite large, but Lin Fan is different from us. His strength is far beyond ours. Let's see how he performs before we make a conclusion. Yes. What if he can stand steadily under the waterfall without carrying a sandbag? Would that be a slap in the face? I still think it's unlikely. Look, Mu Hongling has to carry a sandbag to stand on it. Although Lin Fan's strength is very strong, He is not much stronger than Mu Hongling. With this comparison, we can almost draw a conclusion, right? No matter what, we will know after watching it. Anyway, he will stand on it soon. Everyone started a heated discussion. There was no other way. The main reason was that Lin Fan's behavior really attracted their attention. Chu Hongxun was standing outside the waterfall. He could also see the situation inside the waterfall very clearly. He also saw Lin Fan taking off the sandbag. It seems that Lin Fan wants to improve faster, Chu Hongxun thought secretly in his heart. He knew that Lin Fan's strength had reached the level of a 4th level evolver. If he stood under the waterfall to train with a sandbag on his back, the effect of the training would indeed be greatly reduced. Therefore, he also expressed that he could understand Lin Fan's behavior of taking off the sandbag. After all, this was a decision made by Lin Fan in order to improve his strength faster. I don't know how long he can last. Chu Hongxun began to look forward to it. They only used 3rd level evolvers to test the waterfall here, and did not use 4th level evolvers to test it. He was also full of curiosity about how long Lin Fan could last. Of course, the rest of the people would not guess that Lin Fan's strength had broken through to the driver evolver level. After all, in their opinion, the 4th level evolver level was not so easy to break through. Even a gifted person like Lin Fan could not do it. Lin Fan ignored the voices and eyes of the crowd. After taking off the sandbag, he walked up to the area under the waterfall where he could stand. Crash! The moment he stood on it, the water from the waterfall hit him hard. Although the impact of this water flow was very strong, it should be noted that he already had a high defensive attribute, which could greatly improve his body's defense. Therefore, the impact of this water flow hitting his body did not cause him much pain, but it felt like it was constantly tempering his body and making it stronger. For this feeling, Lin Fan could only use 2 words to describe it: enjoyment. The impact of the water flow made Lin Fan close his eyes and began to enjoy it quietly. He persisted. And his body was still motionless, not even shaking at all. He's so powerful. See, what did I say just now? I said Lin Fan is so much stronger than us. Just because we can't do it doesn't mean he can't do it either. Hasn't he done it now? It's absolutely amazing. When can I become as strong as him? It's so scary. Yes, with his strength, he can definitely kill us in seconds. It feels like if we fight him, he can knock us out with one punch. From this we can tell that his body is very strong, and his own power is also terrifying. I estimate that it would take 20 ordinary 3rd level evolvers to be his opponent, almost. All in all, it's a good thing that Lin Fan is in our camp. If Lin Fan was in Instructor Feng's camp, that would be a real nightmare for us. Yeah, I'm now looking forward to Lin Fan's performance in the competition between the 2 camps. I really want to see the expressions of the students in Instructor Feng's camp when they see Lin Fan's performance. When everyone saw Lin Fan standing under the waterfall, being hit by the water flow without even shaking, they were also shocked. But after being shocked, they started a heated discussion. In their opinion, Lin Fan's strength has exceeded their imagination. They all look forward to Lin Fan's ability to achieve a very good result in the competition between the 2 camps. After Lin Fan and others stood up, the other students also went up one after another. Although many of them were washed down by the water flow of the waterfall after standing up, they would climb up again and continue after being washed down. After all, this is the training they have to endure. Only in this way can they all improve faster. Especially after experiencing the first 2 weeks of training, they all know that the training arranged by Chu Hongxun is very effective. All they have to do is to grit their teeth and persevere. If they grit their teeth and persevere, they will definitely become stronger and stronger, and their strength will improve faster and faster. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.